What do you mean? I don't know. Okay, I will sweep it tomorrow. Well, I'll still do it. I don't want you to be stepping on stuff and hurting your foot. He finally has his other arm. Okay. I will do it quick. I'll do as quick as I can. Okay. I'm sorry.
Somebody said to me the other day, "You're the most famous person in the world by far." I said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." They said, "Yes, you are." I said, "No." They said, "Who's more famous?" I said, "Jesus Christ."
Yeah, he and I have to definitely debate. That's what I love.
Hello, hello, hello. We are live. Hello. Hello, everyone. Very early stream today. But, one, I want to hang out with my partner later. And I'm occupying the basement while I stream, so I want to get it out of the way. Oh, hold on. We gotta let down the hair. I'm occupying the basement. I want to let my partner come down here and be able to play video games and stuff like that. So we are just gonna nail this stream out real quick. I am the big JC. I am a liberal politics streamer. But today we are focusing on something different. Today we are focusing on the thing that I'm cleaning up my desk from the remnants of. We're doing some Warhammer content. Quick background on myself when it comes to that was a loud noise. Quick background on myself with regards to Warhammer. I was a sort of distant lore fan for about a year last year. The beginning of this year was the year where I sold out of Magic and I was looking for something else to fill the niche, and I really got into Warhammer in a big way. I've got about close to 7,000 points of Chaos Marines. I've got a few Nurgle Demons, a few set of Blightlord Terminators. I finally started reading books. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the Fall of Cadia. The next one I have my sight on is the Talon of Horus. I am predictable. I like the Chaos Marines. I like the Black Legion, and I like Abaddon. So that's going to be my big focus with regards to stuff that I'm interested in. But I'm also pretty active. If anybody is coming here from my Twitter, I am very active in the 40K space on Twitter, or X. And I was especially active during the whole Femstodes debacle that recently blew up. I was the night that it was released, or that it was announced, I was scrolling through Twitter, and I saw it, and I was like, "Oh God, this is gonna be all of the Chud Hammer guys' biggest thing for the next foreseeable future, aeons or whatever." I'm also somewhat friends with. I say somewhat because I don't want to. I want to hedge myself. I don't want to be too presumptuous. I'm work acquaintances, shall we say, with Whick, of Whick TV, who is graciously allowing me to cover the panel that we'll be watching. I helped suggest this panel. I was hoping to be on this panel, but as you'll soon see, my position with regards to the topic of the panel is generally represented by Counterpoints, who is, one, a much bigger creator, and two, probably a lot better at navigating, well, definitely a lot better at navigating panels as he has more experience, but three, a lot better at navigating the best way to present the ideas that I share with him to a general audience. Excuse me. So the panel that we're going to be looking at is called, where is it? It is called Warhammer 40K Goes Woke. Has Games Workshop caved to the mob? Counterpoints versus the Woke Brigade. It's not just Counterpoints on this panel. There are other people on this panel as well. And speaking of those other people on the panel, one of them, Pontius Glaw, we will be talking to tomorrow morning, early tomorrow morning, like 5 a.m. CST, but, being Italian, his time zone doesn't exactly sync up with my Midwestern time zone, so we tried to find a time where it would work and be feasible for both of us to have a somewhat extended conversation on what happened in this panel, because as you'll see, I think that one of the panelists did actually treat him pretty dirty. I think that this panel wasn't as productive as I would have hoped. I still think it's worth examining, and that's why we're going to be watching it, is because I want to give my thoughts on it, but also I just want to, I want to share this content with everybody so that they are, number one, that they're aware that Whick is out there doing great panels. Great fucking job, Whick. Had me on one about immigration, and speaking of that panel, you'll see one of those panelists, Admiral Gibbs, appear on this one as well. But for another thing, I want people to realize that conversations about like hobbying and hobby spaces and things like that are taken very, very seriously by the people that are involved in those spaces, regardless of how meaningless you might consider them as someone who might not be a part of that space. With regards to my position on the whole Femstodes thing, generally speaking, I'm gonna always take actions like this that are perceived as like injection of woke ideas into popular IPs. I'm just gonna take them as a very cynical appeal by whatever company to towards a broad demographic. Like it or not, wokeism, or progressivism, whatever you want to call it, is very popular in the world today. A lot of people like it. A lot of people likes the ideas of some of the more some of the more tame ideas. They like the representation, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that until we have any evidence to suggest otherwise, it's prudent to just sort of look at the female custodies decision and any future decisions made by Game Workshop in this regard with a very just cynical approach. They are a money-making company. They just had their yearly wave of price increases. So I don't think that there's any woke agenda being pushed here beyond the one that is driven by greed or whatever you want to call it. I do think, though, I do not like it. I do not like the addition of female custodies. There are reasons for this. The main one for me is the Emperor of Humanity in the lore doesn't seem to really he doesn't really care about women, is a very blunt way to put it. But he just doesn't seem very interested in hanging around women. There's Erda, but she fucked everything. So I would say after that, the idea that the Emperor would have women in his dude bro 10,000 faction of his best buddies, to me, just doesn't really jive with how I picture the Emperor or how he's characterized, at least from my perspective. I can recognize the appeal. You know, you have number one, you get to sell more models. But you also you there are probably people in the Warhammer community who wanted female custodians. We know that I believe it was Aaron Dembski Bowden, all the way back in 2014, 2016. I've seen conflicting dates, was asking for female custodies. I know that there's a conspiracy theory going around that Amazon is the one that pressured Games Workshop to include this. I don't see much merit to that. My understanding of Games Workshop and the way that they treat their IPs is they're very, very protective of them. And any decision with regards to changing those IPs would be vetted internally very, very heavily before it would be allowed to see the light of day. So I broadly don't like the inclusion of female custodians, but I also don't think there's any malicious intent behind it. And I think that to ascribe malicious intent is either, it's kind of silly, and it just sort of speaks to a lack of knowledge on like how companies operate, things like that. I'm gonna get my work lamp out of the way. But we're gonna watch the panel. We're gonna play some Fallout 3, which I can't even believe runs on this computer. I remember having to like, oh god, having to download all of this extra like games for Windows Live and shit to make it work back in the day, but apparently the Game of the Year edition just works. So we're gonna be playing some Fallout 3 for nostalgia's sake, and we'll be listening to the panel, and I'll give my commentary, and I'll pause, and I'll talk about it. And tomorrow we'll have Pontius Glaw on, who is one of the panelists, and we'll be able to ask him questions directly about this panel and sort of, you know, talk to him about it in that sense. So without any further dudes, let's get right to it.
Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of Whick TV, a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And today, a topic that weighs deep in all of our hearts. We are going to be talking about Warhammer 40K and Games Workshop. Recently, they made a tweet showing that they are releasing into the official lore female custodes, right? This has caused some consternation among quite a few fans who point to it as just further evidence that Games Workshop is caving to the quote-unquote woke mob. Today, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about, has Games Workshop betrayed its customer base? Are female custodes lore-friendly or against the lore? Does it even matter? All these things we're going to get into. We got some great guests for you, and we're going to start with the man of the hour, Counterpoints. Give us your thoughts.
With regards to how lore-friendly it is, I think that's like a completely irrelevant avenue to take this down, because anyone who knows anything about the Warhammer lore and the history of Warhammer lore knows that like anything can be justified, anything can be retconned into existence or out of existence. I mean, for fuck's sake, the squats were eaten by the Tyranids, and now they are a playable faction with models. So like anything can happen in Warhammer lore. But you know, we'll see what people say.
Ahead.
Oh man of the hour. Thank you. So you might see me slamming some tacos in the background. That's just because this is normally dinner time for me. However, I will try to be polite and mute myself. My name's Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints 40K. In reference to this topic, this is not the worst decision they could have made. I don't like it. I think they are caving to the woke mob a little bit. It's not as bad as female Space Marines. It's definitely not as bad as female Space Marines being they were always there. That would have been a horrible entry. It's kind of like somehow Palpatine returned. So I think the entry is weird. I think the motivations are bad. I don't think it's the worst thing for the universe that could possibly happen. And as long as this line gets shorn up, I'll be okay. I'll leave it there for now.
Generally agree with everything he just said.
Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. Next up, also the man of the hour, Majin. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Majin. You can find me on Twitch at MajinBMac. Yeah, I'm a huge 40K lore kind of guy. I'm here kind of to stand. I've been bouncing back and forth. There's a guy that was on the show that I agree with some of his lore opinions, but I'm also of the mindset of, hey, bro, this is 2024. Girls don't have cooties, guys. There's great outliers when it comes to strong women. Yo, everybody, listen.
I super hate that line of argumentation for justifying the inclusion of female custodians. The idea that the only reason anybody would be opposed to it is because they just don't like women. I've definitely made fun of people like using that line, but in terms of serious argumentation, I think it's an incredibly weak position to take.
I'm a strong guy, you know, I'm a bouncer and all this, but Amanda Nunes is fucking me up, beating my ass. You know what I'm saying? Holly Holmes does exist. There are very strong women out there, and the lore can reflect this a little bit. I mean, we'll get into deeper later. I don't want to give all my, my shots out, but yeah.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
Hey, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. The third man of the hour, not to be undone. We have Real Radhom. Go ahead. Give us what you got.
Oh, boy.
Hey there, folks. I'm Real Radhom. Today, I'm going to be working on painting a Custodes. It seemed thematically appropriate. Why is that not going away? Bring my face back. There we go.
That'd be why I stopped doing
the
those.
writers have wanted to do this since at least
Paint
2016
streams.
with the female Custodes. Games Workshop has always been a pretty progressive company, at least on the side of that. We'll get into specifics later. Canon is
That's bullshit. This was a company founded by like angsty dudes in the 80s. They have certainly trended more progressive in recent years, but again, that's probably way more due to the whole like cynically appealing to the market thing than anything else. The idea that they've always been a progressive company is, as far as I can tell, not true.
That's very loose in Games Workshop, especially when it comes to 40k. I do think that there is an element of this that was signaling not necessarily wokeness, but telling a certain crowd to fuck off, a certain crowd that they've already told to fuck off, as much as you can in corporate speak. I don't think this is the doom of the company, and I think this is a perfectly fine alteration to the law.
So,
Okay.
with regards to what he just said about telling people to fuck off, so there are plenty of dipshit, idiot, asshole losers on Twitter who, like Bartrick, like Purifier Azrael, like all of these morons, Marshall Bowman, I don't even know if he does 40k anymore, who did just harass GW on their original tweets until the whatever intern they paid for the day to run the Twitter account blocked them. I generally dislike blocking people. The only reason that I could ever see myself blocking someone is if they were like actually, threatening me or my livelihood or my family or anything like that. But I don't care whether or not a private company blocks individuals on their corporate Twitter account. I really don't. It doesn't really, as far as I can tell, it doesn't seem to affect anything other than the Warhammer account can't see them. And that they can't see the Warhammer account's tweets. But like, if you're going on these tweets to like bitch and moan about hating Warhammer and talking about, well, I'll just buy third-party models, I'll just do this, I'll just do that, then like, you only have yourself to blame if they block you. Like, okay, if you don't want to do business with us, then we're not doing any business with you. I have seen at least one substantiated example of someone posting a meme and getting blocked. This has led some people to accuse the Warhammer account of being run by a bot. I don't know about that. It was a meme in response to the original tweet, which admittedly was kind of garbage, where the original reply where they said, since the creation of the 10,000, there have always been female custodians. The way that that's worded is so antagonistic. To me anyways, just comes off as so directly, like, directed, rather. And I almost imagine that whoever made that reply realized that and then went on a blocking spree for anybody who replied in anything other than praise, which is really dumb and shitty. I don't think anybody should block anybody. I think that conversations need to be had, and if you're too weak to handle the conversation, stop replying. Like I said, with the exceptions for if they're actually like targeting you or harassing you in a
we will
very
get into
substantial
it
way.
as we go. Next up, the man of the hour himself, Admiral Gibbs. Go ahead.
Gibbsy!
Yeah, so unlike my esteemed counterpart over here, this is the first shot of the doom of the company. As we've seen from many other organizations, such as Disney, when they've come in and taken over Star Wars and just completely obliterated lore. We've gotten things like The Last Jedi, which is just anti-lore, and it's just destroyed things. We've had originally left this thing that instead of having good stories like in Star Wars, they've just done things for the sake of being woke. And that's what's happening here. In fact, Custodes is just one symptom of the overall disease of wokeness that has proliferated throughout of GW since BlackRock has taken a very major stake in the company. And it is disgusting. It is sad. And men, we need to hold the gate because the woke mob of orcs is coming and we got to do it now.
Beautiful.
I don't like the idea that just because wokeness has destroyed, like, Star Wars is a very obvious example of how, like, injecting all of this woke garbage just seemed to destroy the. I don't even know if I would blame that on wokeness. It just seems like here it seems like wokeness is being used as a catch-all term for a thing I don't like, which, you know, it's wokeness on the right, it's Nazi on the left. Everybody's got their dumbass words that they destroy the meaning of just so they can, like, attach a label to something they don't like and create a buzzword. I honestly, I think Star Wars' problem is that Disney didn't understand the existing fan base and didn't know how to appeal to them. Disney did what Disney does, which is try to appeal to the largest consumer base possible. And they wildly missed the mark. They appointed someone in charge of that division who was way too overzealous with all of the woke shit and injected it wherever possible, with no regard to the actual quality of the storytelling. And that's something that is going to come up later in the debate, but it's very important to keep in mind, like, most often I find when people complain about wokeness in media, what they're really complaining about is the existence of woke elements in bad storytelling, which should be condemned. Bad storytelling is stupid and it should always be fucking condemned. But, well, condemned is maybe too hard of a word. It should be criticized. But I don't know that just saying, well, this story is sucky because there's a gay character or because there's a trans character, right? I don't buy that. I never will buy that. But I definitely it doesn't really help when when you're just hiring these diversity hire writers to write up these shitty stories and, like, cram them full of, like, DEI nonsense, and then the story itself is also shit. Like, you need to hire good writers, and if the good writers put trans characters in their stories, then you need to fucking cope. And, like, I would say, generally speaking, most of the guys on this panel who are against the wokeness or whatever, most of them would probably agree with me that they don't really care about the woke elements being present. They care about whether or not there's actually, like, a good story being told.
We'll see how this goes. Thank you for being here. Next up, first time guest on my show, but man of the hour.
Everybody's
Pontius
the
Law.
man
What
of
do you
the
got for
hour.
us?
Hello guys, I'm
God, I
Pontius
forgot
Glow,
about those
also known
things.
as the Pontius on YouTube
Horrifying.
channel, not that much old, just 4 videos and 2 months old. Also creator of the page Warhammer 40k Heresy Posting, renowned for being a page created by and for gatekeepers. Also, my true name is Danny Fortuna, as it is known. Sorry if I don't show myself, but I'm renowned for being a mysterious guy, other than being the meme funny Italian guy. But other than that, I think that the symptom of Games Workshop caving and just giving out female custodians, you know, they always existed, was just a way to pander and try to shut up the
I agree
woke
with
mob
that.
that is renowned for being extremely narcissistic. But the problem is with them that they are like tyrannies. Now that they have had a single taste of biomass, they will come for the rest. And because Games Workshop doesn't understand that you cannot please narcissistic people, now we will have to deal with more of them. And I will have to become even more aggressive in defending the lore of 40k. That is everything for 40k. Canon is everything.
Okay, well, thanks for being here. We got some strong stances, gang. This should be a great discussion. If you're having trouble getting in, or you feel like you're being talked over, please either raise your hand or
See, that's why it's good I wasn't on there. I would have talked over everybody. I have a really bad habit of that. I need to work on
How
that.
about it, gang?
Yeah. So, do we want to nail down the in-lore stuff first? Like, you know, because
I would love to do that. Yeah, let's do that.
I mean,
yeah,
it
can,
depends-
Sure, let's go.
Uh-oh, Gibbs is
it
pissed.
and then
depends on
like
where you want to go.
lore
Fuck
and
the-
then
ah!
meta commentary.
Jesus.
Because
Fuck
it
that
depends on where
shit.
you wanna
Alright,
go,
bye.
'cause I did a little homework, guys. You know,
Oh, good.
you could go back to issue 99 of White Dwarf. There was female Space Marines. Okay, there's even models.
That's gonna
for
get
'em. I think it was,
corrected.
like, Gab, I pulled them up. There's even a whole article.
All of this
calling-
is
they
gonna.
were
I'm
called
not
the
stopping for any of this.
Sisters
This is
not
all gonna get
Sisters Battle,
addressed.
which they identified the difference
The
between
Little
them.
Sisters. So you're referring there to the Little Sisters of Purification? The Little
There we
Sisters of
go.
Purification were in a fan magazine, not official Games
Oh,
Workshop.
damn it.
The
It had
original
GW
female
on there.
space,
No.
the
It's
original
game-
female Space Marine models.
So, I'll comment actually on the specific magazine. I'm pretty sure that it was Challenge Magazine. I think was the name of it, but it was published by a company called Game Designers Workshop, and they were actually located in the town that I went to college in, which is really cool. And like, I'm actually looking into collecting issues of that for that reason. But yeah, I'm pretty sure everything here is gonna get addressed by Radham comes across in this conversation. I don't know if this is just my like absolute hatred for British people, but he comes across as the most condescending douchebag. Throughout the entire conversation that we're about to watch, especially towards Pontius Glaw and Gibbs. And that is a big part of the reason I reached out to Glaw. I was like, hey, I want to give you a fair shake because he treated you like shit.
Were, as far as we know from Alan Merritt, were created by the sculptor to be female Space Marines, and were sold as
Female Space Warriors.
Later on. They were never sold as female Space Marines.
Correct.
His explanation for why they weren't included and incorporated was just that they didn't sell well at the time. I know I'm on the progressive side of this, but I've also been into these trenches for a number of years already. So I thought I'd get that correction out of the way before someone else did
Oh,
it.
your homework got
Well,
graded,
yeah,
Majin.
no,
Your
no,
homework
I
got
I
graded.
know, it got graded.
Little addition. It is not a creation of Games Workshop. The lore about them that it was in Sunstroke magazine. It was a creation of GDW, Games Design Workshop, that is an American company.
Based.
Also, the models were never even called or labeled as brothers or marines. They were labeled simply as sisters. I have the picture even on my desktop right now.
That is not
Okay.
okay.
But I think we,
That's
I think we
not
need-
true. They are labeled as Space Warrior Gab and Space Warrior Jane. This whole... See, we're already on female Space Marines. It took, what, like 20 seconds? This whole thing is, like, super duper uninteresting to me. Like, litigating, like, whether or not this specific example was them confirming female Space Marines, or this specific example was them saying they'll never exist. Like, I don't fucking care. All of this can be retroactively justified because it's Warhammer, because it's a fictional universe where they can write new lore in, take old lore out. It is how this shit works. Like, I'm pretty sure that, like, servitor babies either they aren't a thing or they are, like, very rarely talked about. Pretty sure, I don't even know if it comes up in this panel. It's been a while since I watched it. Pretty sure Space Marines, like the Ultramarines, had, like, sex slaves at one point. So, like, this is just like, this is all just like a large nothing burger.
need to
Well,
decide
let me-
why this is important.
Sure. Let me ask just right off the gate. From a lore perspective, female custodes, does it fit or is it shoehorned in? Regardless of why they put it out, regardless of why they did it, is this a retcon or does this?
It is
actually-
obviously a retcon.
No, it is a retcon, and it doesn't fit in at all.
It is a retcon, and it is
not
a
as-
retcon that fits in. Warhammer is made out of retcons.
That's a very good point, yeah.
It's retcons all the way down, my boy.
That's not true.
They
That's
are,
not unequivocally
but-
not
but-
true. For
just
years,
like-
people have been saying things like the Star Child has been retcon, and we're seeing with the newer stuff that they go back to the well again and again on these old topics. People have been saying are retcon. So for someone to sit here and
The
go, "Oh,
13th
it's a
Black
retcon,"
Crusade was retconned out of existence. The 13th Black Crusade was retconned out of existence. Squats were
true.
retconned from abhumans to being gene constructs.
And retconned back
Custodes
into
are
existence.
retconned to all... Custodes were retconned to having always worn their golden armor. OG Custodes were mostly
Shirtless.
naked with stubby
Yeah.
leather
So wait,
pants
but
and
how
a
does that
gimp
disprove
helmet.
anything I just said?
Go look up pictures of the original Custodes models, like the first one. I think it was Codex Compliant put out a YouTube short where they showed off like the first Custodes model. It is hilarious. It literally looks like the fabulous Custodes from fucking TTS.
Everything I just said is still accurate.
You said
Hold on. Everyone's super excited to talk. Hey. We will have a little order.
God, it's
We
as
will have a
heated as an
little order in this part.
Israel-Palestine debate.
But pass
Everything
it
you
to-
said is fake. It's fake news.
No,
It's
no,
fake
let-
news.
let-
It's not
let-
true.
I'm gonna.
Wait a second.
No, it's
Hold on.
true. All of these things got
Guys,
retconned.
Team
guys,
Black
wait,
Crusade
Hey!
still exists.
I will mute the fuck out of all of you. Pontius Claw, go ahead.
No, let's
Guys,
establish something.
just-
The
I just
concept of-
fucking, if Whick is the moderator, like when he's talking, shut the fuck up. Like if I was moderating a panel, if I was moderating this panel, I would have kicked every person who didn't shut up the first time I said it. And then if they wanted to come back in, they'd have to fucking ask. Like, there has to be some semblance of order when you're running a fucking debate panel. Jesus.
Retcon is not simply going back and changing the story. Retcon is a concept where the new story you add goes against or contradicts what was established before. But it depends also how much it was established. If you go,
No.
let me do a stupid example.
No, so let's I 100% disagree with that. A retcon can be incredibly minute, or it can be like a massive thing, like all the Space Marines were technically female because XYZ. Like that would be a massive retcon. But if you say, oh well, this version of Power Armor is actually the Mark 6 and not the Mark 5, like I don't think that that's even remotely the same level of retcon. But it would still be a retcon definitionally.
being a Saiyan in Dragon Ball. It is technically a retcon, but it is a retcon that doesn't weigh nothing because we didn't know anything about him before he was found by the old man that was his father, Gohan and such. So after that series, you could add something because there was nothing before that. But if you go and just say, oh yes, female custodians have always existed, ignore that they come from sons of nobles, ignore that the emperor made them all males, ignore that he calls them men, ignore that they call themselves the brotherhood of demigods, ignore that they are always referred with male pronouns in every single publication, and the only one where they are
actually, there's a number of publications that just use gender-neutral pronouns, including
This
the
is
third edition rulebook and the ninth edition Custodes Codex.
It's just this whole section of the debate is just gonna. I need to stop pausing it so much because it's gonna be suffering, and I just need to get through it. But like this whole section of the debate is just like a gotcha competition, and Radham thinks that he's the winner. It's so fucking like miserably unproductive. Like every point that Glaw just made is a good point that you should address. Like one of the questions I want to ask Glaw tomorrow is: were you this upset with Primaris? About Primaris, I know that they put out a video on, which we might watch tomorrow, depending on how early I stream and how, if they're available when I message them at first. But with regards to, like, the squats, I feel like the squats is a pretty big retcon. From what I understand, it was basically, like, they were included as, like, a gimme, where it's like, well, we have dwarves in fantasy, so we have dwarves in space, too, but they got all eaten by the Tyranids. And that's all been retconned. All the lore has been rewritten. So now they are kin or hearthkin, and they've got all these, like, they've got these AI constructs and like all this shit, and they've got models and stuff. So, like, to me, that is a way bigger retcon than female custodians, than saying, oh, there's some girls here too, especially when most of them are just like hidden in their armor and you wouldn't be able to fucking tell. So I'm just curious if any of these people who are so ass mad about the female custodians, if that's consistent for like every massive retcon or every retcon in general, or if it's just this specific one because it's tied to like some woke ideology bullshit.
Have only been an army for a very short period of time.
On 7th edition, there was no lore for them back there. If they were introduced when there was no lore, there would be no problem. The problem is now there is lore. So retconning that lore brings problems. And in general, this retcon goes against...
The writers wanted there to be female custodes from the point where they were introduced as an army. Okay. The only reason that didn't happen is the sculpts were already finished and only had male hair.
I would love to see his source for that. I'm not confident to call it a lie, but I'd love to see Rad's source for that.
True. The point is, they didn't. If they were introduced together with the lore, yeah, they are male and female, there will be no problem. The problem is that the retcon is happening after 7 years of their lore existing. Oh no, yeah, there were always women in the Sisters of
The
Battle.
13th Black Crusade was retconned after over a decade.
It's fake news because we still have the 13th Black Crusade. Yeah, it was retconned.
We have an entirely new 13th Black Crusade. Eldrad is fucking alive again.
Is it the 13th Black Crusade, though? Because it seems like
it's an entirely new 13th Black Crusade.
So you just,
Yes,
Okay, I thought this would be the easy part of the debate, but apparently not. Okay.
They retconned the event of the 13th Black Crusade. It is renowned, but there wasn't done many events explained for the 13th Black Crusade. If something doesn't have much lore, you can simply retcon
The
it.
13th Black Crusade lore was more solid than the old Custodes lore that has been slightly retconned so that there are female Custodes.
So the entire horse heresy, there's no female Custodes.
Okay.
The entire horse heresy.
I'm gonna push on. Okay, so he's talking about novels. I'm gonna push on what the point Gibbs is trying to make here, because from what I understand, even the Horus Heresy, and this might get mentioned, even the Horus Heresy was just an excuse for why Space Marines were fighting Space Marines, i.e., why you would buy like a Space Marine kit and stick spikes on it, and then they were Chaos Space. Like it was that. It was there was a civil war and some of the Space Marine legions rebelled and now we have Chaos Space Marines. Go buy your Loyalist kit and stick spikes on them. So, like, I don't know if that's going to get brought up here, but as far as I'm aware, even the Horus Heresy is like a massive retcon. It's like the biggest one.
Of like
they just haven't been mentioned. Games Workshop's official position on this is everything is canon, not everything is true.
No, let's be honest. That position,
They're so ass mad.
That phrase, use it very sparingly because it was created at the time where CS:GO was a writer for the world of 40k. It was created by Games Workshop as a cop-out to not say this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing with the lore. Just ignore it because it is not true. It is a cop-out created because they couldn't stay behind their own lore. But the point is, if I tomorrow
no, it's a necessity. It's not a cop-out for a single writer. It's a necessity when you have dozens of, well, probably upwards of 100 authors now publishing dozens of books every fucking year.
Yeah, in which
other companies can handle it.
Okay. I want to get some other people in on this, right? The three-way back and forth.
Just gonna throw this in there. It's not a necessity to have women in a fictional universe in a given setting. Also, if writers are so fucking desperate to write about female characters, I mean, fuck. I'm not to mention the Fall of Cadia, where there's a fuck ton of awesome female Militarum officers. There's a fuck ton of sisters. How many sisters books are there? Like 4? Maybe write a fucking sisters book, huh? Like, that would be my other big criticism with the addition of female Custodes is, and this one, like, this is a hypothetical. It hasn't necessarily played out yet, but I am nervous as fuck that they are just going to focus heavily on female Custodes and continue to sideline sisters. We already sidelined the Sisters of Battle and the Sisters of Silence as well, to a lesser extent. We already sidelined them to, like, a very, very few books, very, very few dedicated lore. Meanwhile, the Ultramarines, like, half the fucking books are about them. So, like, I don't know. I feel like saying, well, it's necessary because their authors want to write about women. Well, then write about the women that are already there. Write about the women-only faction, which is, like, interesting and cool and unique. Like, fuck.
It's fine. I want to hear Majin and Counterpoint's opinions on all this. Counterpoints, you have a pretty big lore channel, right? What do you say? Are female Custodes lore-friendly or no?
So I would say they're not lore friendly, but they're definitely not the worst defense that you could possibly have. So obviously, like, female Astartes would be worse. They are different. Custodes are designed since birth, so they could be tailor-made. So it's not as big of a stretch. One of the things, I know that I brought up the lore first, but one of the things that I'm going to appeal to for my more chuddy arguments is the fact that they're redundant in a way. We have the Sisters of Silence. We have the Sisters of Battle. We have powerful female characters.
Thank you, Connor.
Factions. So just making the Custodes female for reasons does feel like throwing the progressive crowd a bone.
I just don't think if it's one or two custodies that are coming through the pipeline, I just think this is just the outliers, right? These are just exceptional women that made it through. Like I know it's the noble's
This is
first
a good
sons,
point.
you know what I'm saying? But you're acting like we haven't had a Brianna Toff, or even in real life where we've had strong female combatants in multiple different sports.
Yeah, like Mulan.
I just what
I was
is
gonna go with real ones, like
it's like he had me for the first half. Look, there's a point to be made. Counter is making the good point with regards to the lore. Female custodies, you can make them from birth, so you can make whatever the fuck, who fucking cares. But with regards to like if it's like one or two, then this whole, like, if there is exactly like 5 total female custodies, like they've always been, but there was one in the beginning and there's like 4 now, then this entire like bullshit overreaction by the chuds just gets like instantly like blown the fuck out.
Muhammad Ali's daughter, what's her name? Shields, the other female boxer. There's tons of women out here that's gonna beat us all up in here. Even
Speak
if
for
we all try to
yourself.
fight them at the same time, we're probably losing.
Speak for
You know
yourself.
what I'm saying? So
I get 'em.
I just want to say,
I'll
like,
fight
hey, bro,
any woman
like,
any day.
If it's one or two, cool.
Fuck.
All right, that's just an outlier. That
Fuck.
was somebody that was a badass when they was a kid, and the emperor was like,
So-
I see you.
In your opinion, you think there's nothing wrong with it in the lore. So Counterpoints doesn't like it from a lore standpoint, but you're fine with it. Is that your
Well,
opinion?
the lore I don't think is as bad as people are making it out to be. I think the thematic issue is actually the bigger issue, which is it's now redundant with a bunch of factions.
We might
And
be
why are we doing this? Is the reason just because we want to cater to a progressive audience, like updated for a modern audience? Because that's what it feels like.
Do we
I want to add to that. I want to add to that.
add to that real quick, and then I have another question. Go ahead.
Well, so you can see this though. They've been trying to do this across the board with Space Marines. Even though they know that there's going to be a riot just with Space Marines alone. Like, look at the addition of Amara Star to you, like from the get go, right? She comes in, and before it was the Emperor gene crafting, the Space Marines and all this, and now they're like, well, we couldn't directly make them women at the time, so what we're going to do? We're going to make them have a woman creator, right? Then you have the Emperor's son.
Yeah, but isn't it funny how they made a female creator and then they had her screw everything up? Because honestly, what was GW cooking?
Women, am I right?
It's baby steps, right?
I know,
Same
but
same thing with Erda, right? First we had the Emperor and his sons, and they were pure creations of the Emperor. And now we have this witch sorceress that came out of nowhere that's now the wife of the Emperor, basically, that's co-creator and scattered the sons to chaos and shit. And it's just...
Yeah, I love blaming women for shit. Isn't this a good update?
No, it's sloppy writing.
Based.
As much as you want to say that, it's sloppy writing that's pandering to the woke crowd, that's like turning us into a Last Jedi situation where they're saying fuck you to the fans that have been here since the beginning and pandering to wokeness for the sake of wokeness. And it's bad and sloppy writing. And I mean, we can see this all throughout. Now they've confirmed that Lionel Johnson is named after a gay poet and that he's The Rock, the place has come from. It was originally named after a gay club. And it's the Dark Angel's whole story is a cover, for latent homosexuality. So
I'm sorry, but the Dark Angels being a bunch of like gays, that makes sense to me. They all live on like a rock by themselves and refuse to talk to anybody. Like it is the Navy meme, just fast forwarded 40,000 years into the future. I'm sorry, that one works for me. It's funny. It's fine. Don't care.
We have all of this stuff going.
Besides, imagine getting ass mad about the Dark Angels.
And it's just wokeness for being
So
woke.
Cringe.
That's stuff that was always there. The Dark Angels chapter is a literary reference to a gay British poet and his secret shame.
I didn't know that.
What the Dark Angels, that's how they were conceived.
And I thought the Dark Angels were gay before that. So.
Yeah, base. Me too. Base.
Wait, hold on. Are we seriously arguing that it's more gay now that there are females there?
100%.
And it was less gay when it was just the boys.
100%. Oh, Wick, 100%.
If we want to get into thematic, because I feel like thematic might be the stronger argument. That's part of the reason why I wanted to do lore first. So thematic, it's like the reason why I don't want female Astartes is because it is about like brotherhood and paternal relationships and all that kind of shit. Like that is the story of the Horus Heresy is basically like brotherly and fatherly hatred and love. So like that's why I want to keep that like narratively and thematically pure, so to speak. And I don't want progressive random bullshit to get in there.
Well,
now, do I think that Spartans are technically less gay because they have women? Maybe. but like I also like I want my GI Joes. I want to play with them. I don't want girls to come around, and I like that they're asexual super warriors.
Well, let me just ask. I'll let you go in a second, Pontius.
Yeah, no problem.
A question for Radham and Majin, who seem to be on the more. There's nothing wrong with this side and things like that. Do you not see that argument though, that they wanted a story about brotherly conflict and the love between a father and son? Doesn't this simply just water that down? And if it doesn't, why not?
You can make that argument. You can make that argument for female space marines, which is what Connor is doing there. The way I would phrase my argument for male-only space marines is I see Space Marines as an allegory for the horrible things that fascism does to boys and young men. How it takes them, strips them of their personality
and their humanity, and turns them into
Now people can use that to tell stories about brotherhood and yada yada, and I do see that the Horus Heresy is about that, but that's not the thematic core of
the problem that I have here is that Radham does make some good points. He's just a douche when he makes them. I'm hoping that tomorrow I'm able to be a little bit more palatable to Glaw, and maybe I can help him understand at least where I'm coming from with some of this stuff. But I agree. I feel like with regards to the Astartes, the fact that it's like we literally rip out their we shove a bunch of shit in them and stick them in armor, and the only thing they know is battle and war, and like I mean, if you think about like what, for example, the Nazis did to like things like the Hitlerjugend and shit like that, and like by the end of the war they were like shoving 14-year-olds onto the lines to like fight. Like I could definitely see literary inspiration there, whether intentional or unintentional. I don't think that you have to argue against like the existence of that interpretation for your point to be more or less legitimate.
It is, which is the changes that's been made.
Which is why I'm not freaking out about it as hard
well,
as
I want to let Pontius respond. I want to let Pontius respond. Go ahead.
Wait a second. Little thing though. You are saying that Astartes are what fascism does to boys, the wanting war for the sake of war, for defending humanity and such. Then the question comes out pretty naturally. Why do you want women in it? Custodians
that is a really weird point.
Of the same dictator that made Space Marines and Primarchs. They are the bodyguards of the same person that put the galaxy aflame to conquer it, and because of him, the Horus Heresy happened, and
this is Warhammer.
Let him finish. Let him finish, and you can respond. I promise.
No, everything is horrible. Okay, and then if you consider Astartes as much as a bad thing as the childhood of fascism and such, why would you want women in it?
I don't understand the point
here. Let's just focus on Custodes for now.
You talked of Astartes, I'm talking of Astartes. Same thing for Custodians. They're the bodyguards of the guy that made the fascism you are accusing him of. So
the Emperor made the Custodians to be...
Can we all, like, acknowledge that the Emperor was, like, a fascist, right? I mean... got the hyper nationalism, although it's like it's less of a nation and more of like a a galaxy, a planet, or whatever, a race. It's got that going for it, and it's got the hyper xenophobia. I mean, xeno being the operative part there, right? Like it's pretty. I don't see how you can argue against the fact that like it's unless you are yourself a fascist or fascist leaning, and you're like offended by the fact that people would compare like a character that is very obviously intended to be like evil or a poor representation of like humanity or blah blah blah, if you take offense at that or whatever. But like this is one of those things that I'm not interested in litigating, just because like it seems so blatantly obvious and from the outset as that was the intention of the creators and authors. I mean, if you think about like some of the stuff that was going on in the world at the time when Warhammer was created, a lot of the tropes in Warhammer seem to be like a direct response to some of that.
Is to be a perfection of what humanity could potentially be.
No, that's
There
not
is
like
nothing in there in his intention. There is nothing in there in his intention and what he
Gibbs
does.
is
and
so
what the
mad and he
custodians
needs to
are.
chill.
They're a perfection of humanity.
No.
They're not just warriors. They're not just his bodyguards. They are artists and artisans. They are philosophers, authors, poets.
Their names are so long they
are a
fill entire
perfection,
books.
An apex of what humanity can potentially be. That's the narrative purpose of the Custodes.
Absolutely not. I disagree with that on every level.
No, wait a second. Even by going by that logic, the fact that custodians not only were created for that, but they were pretty much the personal legion of the emperor, and is pretty much order carriers. He used them as his own legion when he fought to save Horus against the Beast of Ulanor. 2,000 of them showed up, more than 100,000 orcs died, and only 2 custodians were killed. So they were the ones helping him conquer rather than defending him, because they were the ones defending him when Alfarius even tried to kill him. But the point is, why in all of this, from all the people here, I have not heard of the context 40k comes from? Because everybody's pretty much focusing on, is the change good or bad for the lore, or it carries any meaning for the lore. But the problem is, and the same reason I make videos about lore, nobody ever seems to give a fuck about the context of why 40k exists. While Games Workshop might be progressive, Warhammer is not. The literal phrase of Warhammer is, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only and only war. And other than that, forget the promise of understanding or technology. It is not a universe where you have Mass Effect kind of technology or advancement. Everything they do is driven by tradition and retrograde pretty much thoughts. They are so much attached to their own tradition that they will kill people just for suggesting to defy it. So in all
okay, see, he's saying that, but I don't know if Law is even recognizing that the reason that it's written that, like, over the top, that bombastic, that we will literally kill you if you say anything against the Emperor, is because it is meant to be a satire of fascism. It is meant to make fun of, send up those elements of fascism and point out how ridiculous they are and how unproductive they are. Part of the reason the Imperium is crumbling is because they, instead of innovating, they've held so steadfastly to these traditions that they aren't even fucking getting right. Right? The idea that the Imperium in the quote-unquote modern era is following Lorgar's heretical book, which Lorgar being one of the sons of the Emperor who wrote like a book about worshiping like him as a god. And the Emperor was like very, very much like, absolutely not, you will not worship me as a god. We like science. We don't believe in gods. There's nothing supernatural. There's only the stars and humanity. The idea that the Imperium is using Lorgar's book as their Bible, I think should be like obvious. Like, oh my god, look how hypocritical they are. Isn't that like goofy? Like, I don't know.
That set those traditions, the same person that they all pray for, the same person that made all custodians male, all Astartes male, or Primarchs male, because he feared that if there were females, fear that was true, by the way, with the Daemonculaba, they will find a way to reproduce and turn against humanity to conquer it. Why
not talk about the Daemonculaba
and make female custodians? And if he wasn't the one to make them, how in the fuck did somebody defy the orders of the Emperor to never experiment with augmentation on women to make them? Like, Belisarius Cole is already on a thin line with the Primaris, and if it wasn't for Robute, he would have been burned at a fucking stake. How in the fuck do they exist? Because the Emperor didn't want to make them, and the Imperium doesn't want them. They want tradition.
Okay, but all right, we have to we have to engage with the lore. Like, this is the thing, is like, okay, what I'm gonna say is gonna sound like a complete cop-out. It's gonna sound like bullshit. It's probably gonna irritate some people, but I'm gonna be really fucking honest. If Games Workshop says that the lore is now there have been female custodians since the beginning, then that is the lore. It is a fictional universe, and the only official source we have confirming whether or not something is true to that universe is Games Workshop. So if they say that something is canon, it is canon. You can rage and scream as much as you want about it, but that's not going to change the fact that it's canon now. So, and this is why I'm super uninterested in litigating like whether or not this fits in the lore or whatever. It already has been fit into the lore. It is part of the lore. You can dislike it, and you can say, here's reasons why I don't personally think it makes sense, but it is part of the lore. So arguing whether or not, like, it could be part of the lore is completely irrelevant when it is part of the lore now. They said it is. They are the only ones who officially determine what is and isn't official canon. So I don't know, like, I just don't see much point in, like, trying to, like I said at the outset of this, I don't see what the fucking point of all of this section is. You can't, whether you think it's justified or not, it's part of the lore. So now let's contend with what is part of the lore.
Okay, so you've just spouted a lot of stuff there.
That's
and I just want to start off here. So you quoted part of the universal intro text for 40K. That's varied a little bit from edition to edition. But you missed out. To be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable.
Okay, why is progressive? Like, it doesn't go against my argument.
So you said that, like, even though Games Workshop is progressive, Warhammer isn't. The Imperium is not an aspirational society.
Correct.
It is a fucking horrible society. You also said that they are that the modern, by modern I mean the 40K Imperium, are following the dictums of the Emperor. No, they're fucking not. They're following the faith and religion written by Lorgar that the Emperor fucking cleansed Monarchia for. They are not following the imperial truth. They are following a twisted version of what they think the Emperor wants. It's part of the tragedy of the heresy in 40K.
But I wasn't talking of the Lectitio Divinitatus. That is the point. I'm talking about the fact that they did a thing away. They will always do it that way because they are used to doing it that way. It is why you pray at your
custodians. But I'm going to have to contradict my own alleged team here.
So
we'll get you in.
The thing about it is, it's okay, Connor. I did that before. We're just keeping it even.
Okay. The custodies predate what you're talking about, like the more brutal traditionalist society that isn't capable of learning. Part of the custodies lore was the fact that they're disgusted by what the Imperium has become, and part of the reason why they've done only secret missions and they've only come out for like the most existential of conflicts is because they are disgusted by what the Imperium has become.
As is Rabute, which is...
The reason is because they took pretty much an oath to defend the Emperor and the Palace always. But the point is, the Custodians might have escaped the brain rot that
I don't think I ever noticed that
they
before.
pretty much became an hyper-traditionalist empire where...
Adults only stream.
Killing a person to recharge your own warp engine is seen better than just repairing the fucking reloading mechanism for the warp engine because it is cheaper. But the point of the Custodians is that they too are following the orders of the Emperor. No Custodian would ever willingly defy the orders of the Emperor. And if he made them all males and he never made a single female, and after he's gotten on the throne...
Okay, we got that in a couple of codexes where they said that it's the sons. But when it comes to like the male gene seed stuff, that's all in Space Marine codexes. Where are you getting? You said that the Emperor is explicitly stating that he does not want female custodians. Where is that said?
No.
It is not said, but it is a point you can infer from the fact he never made female Space Marines nor female custodians because they are a retcon.
I don't know about... I don't like the... Earlier in the conversation, they already talked about how, like, you can go back... Actually, yeah, Glaw even pointed out, like, you can go back and fill in where it's, like, left sort of vague. And, like, if it's not specifically stated that the Emperor didn't want female custodies, then technically, following your logic from earlier, they're totally fine. So, I don't know about that one. I don't know that you can just say, well, he didn't want female Astartes, therefore also no female Custodes. Like, I don't know. I guess it really comes down to this. Did the Emperor have fuck buddies? Because, like, we know that, like, every time he tried to do it, it didn't end well for him. Or rather, it didn't end well for his partner. But, like, maybe he just, I don't know, maybe he wanted a fuck buddy. He couldn't just, like, fucked to death or something. I don't fucking know.
I don't agree with this because basically what Radham said. Radham pointed out because
Well,
this is actually part of the law. Hold on.
We'll get to you, Gibbs. I promise. You're in the chamber.
And the Thunder Warriors is that the Astartes and Thunder Warriors are not always supposed to be there. The Imperium is not always supposed to be at war, and what's eventually supposed to happen is peacetime in which mortals lead the society, and the Custodes are the custodians of the future. They are the guardians of the future.
Aren't. They are not supposed to be there. Even in a recent novel, we got an explanation from Malcador. He explained that the future of the Imperium isn't for superhumans, it is for mankind. There isn't any superhumans.
Yeah, which is why the Custodes are the custodians, not the leaders.
Yeah, and that's also not entirely true either, because under the Imperial Palace, there's like residences for the Primarchs. So the who is it? The like some of the Primarchs may have been culled, but not all of them. Like all the douchebag Primarchs that you're thinking of, that I'm thinking of as well. Some of those douchebags would have gotten culled, but not all of them.
Okay.
Maybe, but we can know.
Doesn't that just go along perfectly with Warhammer lore? The idea that the Emperor would just go, oh well, Mortarion, Conrad, you guys are like fucked in the head, so I'm just gonna get rid of you. But Rabute is chill, so he gets to live. Like, to speak to the broader point, yeah, I don't think that, like, the thing is, just because the Emperor said the Thunder Warriors are only temporary, and then he killed all the Thunder Warriors with the Astartes, doesn't necessarily mean that just because he says that, he's going to follow through on everything else, right? As far as I'm aware, the only thing that he said for sure was, I'm going to get rid of the Astartes when I've got my perfect society. Excuse me. So, my understanding was, like, Radham said, the Custodes were meant to be custodians and, like, shepherd humanity into a bright age.
The fact that Astartes, Primarchs, or Custodians still exist is from the fact that the galaxy is not secured by the Imperium. Is that the Imperium didn't win. There is the archenemy that is Chaos.
Yeah, but if the Emperor is building residences for his sons under the Imperial Palace, I think you can infer that he planned on them being a part of the future.
Also, you can infer from the fact he never made female super soldiers.
We're gonna get into it. I promise.
No, that's not quite the same thing.
Hold on. We gotta get some other people in. Oh my God!
For the people like you.
Hello. $5 from Testicle Johnson to say, I, for one, don't think there should be women Space Marines. Painting dolls should be left to men.
Amen. Base.
I'm going to pass the mic to Admiral Gibbs, who's been trying to get in here. What are your thoughts on this? And maybe we can.
Yeah,
I
disagree with Radham's take on the Custodes falling on it. That's not why he made them. He specifically says in one of the major Horus Heresy books that the reason he made them is because he needs companions, that he can share his vision of the future.
Yeah, why would he get rid of them though?
Him and Malcador talking.
Wait. Just because the Custodes were also meant to be his friends doesn't mean they weren't also meant to be the Isn't the Emperor often referred to as like the greatest human to have ever lived? So the idea that he would only be able to be friends with humans that were nearly as great as him, and then following from that, the idea that like he would aspire for all humans to be as great as the Custodes, like I'm fine following that inference train because that seems all pretty laid out, right? And you know what? Maybe to be fair, I should be following the inference train on the whole no female super soldiers as well. But like, again, we already said female Custodes are a thing. They're a thing now.
Going forward, right? And it even sets it up for the High Lords to take over, and there's pushback from some of the Primarchs and some of the other people from the get-go on this issue. There's pushback from the Custodes whenever he initially he did the Human Council. They even had a rebellion over it, kind of thing. Not the Custodes themselves, but the other people there, right? And then so he's definitely their bodyguards, his companions. He never mentions in all the Horus Heresy 66 books, but always mentioned with male pronouns, right? So whenever you say, oh, they're gender neutral programs, okay, there's
that was a bullshit point from Radham.
You said a tank. Oh yeah, it's a gender neutral program.
So just for my audience's edification, and keep in mind this is a fan site, so Warhammer 40k wiki, so bear that in mind. But a quote in there from the Emperor says this: "These men are my bodyguards. Their lives forfeit to the guarantee of my physical safety. Of their loyalty to me, a loyalty to me. There shall be no question nor doubt, and I alone shall have the authority to stand in judgment over them. No other commander shall they have in battle nor in service. None shall bar them from me, and none shall hamper or stall their mission. So it is decreed. It's pretty clear in this, at least, that he's saying men. I mean,
Yeah, and so even in addition to that, we see, especially the latest Horus Heresy novels, the final one, Siege of Terror ones, it talks about how Horus tries to get to him. One of the ways he tries to get to him is by actually turning Custodes like against him, right? And so he's doing
I
this
need to
because
read
they're his
those.
companions, and he knows it's going to cause him mental anguish towards the Emperor, on the psychic realm, which is a whole different thing, right? But I mean, so as for what Connor said with this little combat missions, well, there's another reason why they're not doing combat missions on a whole big grand scale, and that's that they're currently undertaking a massive war in the webway, trying to hold the door shut, basically, so that we don't have, basically in their form, the Slaneshi demons, just like we have the woke crowd here trying to break down the modern
God,
troops of
okay.
Slanesh coming in and trying.
They've already been called, so they've been called Slanesh demons. They were called earlier Tyranids. It is, I gotta say, shout out, this is a message for the chuds. If you want anybody to take your criticism seriously, stop being fucking cringe about it. Stop lacing it with the Warhammer terminology. It makes you look like the most soy fucking like weak basement dwelling losers, and that's coming from me, a soy weak basement dwelling loser.
Like, trans things. Like the newest call, people are just never satisfied, as Danny Fortuna said. The newest call I saw
So,
hold on. The
Queer
newest
and
call I
trans
saw,
people are not actually discriminated against any more than anyone else in the Imperium.
Yeah, but just hold on
That's
here.
you inserting your modern bigotry.
No, I'm not
from
doing
their
that. Hold on.
ideology,
I'm not even-
self-mutilation
there's
is
no
considered
bigotry.
Slaneshi worship.
That is not understand. I'm saying, well, on top of that, we're seeing all these different things.
Trans
happen.
people are Slaneshi demons trying to invade the hobby. That's not a sign of bigotry.
It is
never
not a sign of
said
bigotry.
that.
It's an
Never
accurate
said
description.
that.
You see a lot of the stuff that Slanesh does.
What's
It's
wrong with
very,
being a
very
Slaneshi
much,
demon?
in the
Or
body
the
mutilation.
Drukhari.
They sound fun.
Drukhari is another example of
The Drukhari do it to keep Slanesh at bay, in fact.
But
so all
ultimately,
Slanesh and
hold on, I just want to tap it on
This
something
change
that Whick
isn't
did.
Slaneshi,
Real
this
quick.
change is Zinchian.
I got you, King. Anyways,
This
we
is
on
the
the same side
change
here.
of ways.
We on the same side. You can hop in. Ultimately,
to
what Whick was saying from that quote right there, right? We even talk about this when it comes to the United States forces, right? We don't go I guess now we do the women and the men, right? But it used to, even though we had female soldiers back in the U.S. Army, we would say the men of the U.S. Army, right? There's outliers everywhere, right?
Yeah. Fucking, don't they call... Okay, I could be totally off on this. I have no military experience, but don't you call like your commanding officer sir, no matter what? Or like, certainly in some of these, like in fucking Halo books, because I used to be a big Halo fan, they call every commanding officer sir, regardless of gender. So like, yeah.
Combat people either, were they?
But there were still women in the army,
No.
right? Like, but
Not
still,
in special force.
for them to have
How
maybe
many
one
were
or
the
two
special
women
forces?
that
Yeah.
I don't know. There might be. They could have helped. For all we know, there could have been.
No.
Right? There's not ever like.
No, wait a second. I have actually checked. In nowhere in the world there are women in combat units of special forces. There is
Actually, that's
That,
not true.
wait a minute. Yeah, so first of all, the IDF is like a big fucking example, but we're gonna check that real quick. Do women serve in combat roles? U.S. Army. Yeah, as of October 2019, in the what is this in the hold on. Let's figure out what we're. Okay, hold on a second. Because for some reason it keeps shoving me to fucking Yahoo search. Yeah, okay, so Bill Clinton banned women from combat, but the last restriction on women's service ended in 2013 when Defense Secretary Leon Panetta lifted the Pentagon's 1994 ban on women in direct ground combat roles. But under the Pentagon's cautious phased approach to opening the careers to women, it wasn't until 2016 that women were eligible for every combat job. And it's everything that I've seen with regards to like combat effectiveness, and a lot of that research was done to counter the dumbass Trump anti-trans military ban. But it doesn't seem to have decreased combat effectiveness. So I'm not. I would say, yeah, the Soviets, the Eastern Front, the Soviets probably used a shitload of them, right? I would say, let's put it this way, okay? If you're a wealthy-ass country like the United States and you can only afford to have the best of the best in terms of your fighting force, and you can afford to do that, probably a lot of them are going to be men. Some of them might be women, but probably the majority are going to be men. Just because men are more genetically predisposed to being big, bulky, and tough. That being said, I don't think that a sniper rifle kills any differently fired by a woman than by a man. As long as they can aim it and pick the target right, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like with regards to, like, combat in the modern age, it seems like a lot of the roles can be easily fulfilled by someone regardless of, like, you could hand a fucking sniper rifle to someone in a wheelchair and they probably go, like, rocketing back from the kickback, but you know what I'm saying.
Like in Israel or something like that? Like, don't they actually have that?
That's part of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force.
Yeah, that's their military.
I refuse to make this into a Palestine-Israel debate. That will not happen.
Oh, I already thought it was one. Everybody's so mad.
So I'm gonna pull us back in the direction we should be going.
Go ahead.
We don't know anything about the Custodes creation process.
True.
It is intentionally
At least as far as I've seen.
No, we don't. We don't know anything about it. What do we know?
Well, we know it doesn't involve gene seed.
We don't know how it is carried out, but we know who and how. The Emperor made the process. He left the process to the people that came after him. But he was the only one, as I explained in my video. I don't know if many people here saw it because it is going on.
All right, we'll need to watch it.
As I explained it, he was the only one. Yeah,
I'll watch that later tonight.
I hope you liked it. But
it was good.
Yeah,
Blaze him later. Go ahead. Finish your point.
He made the process, but he was the only one that could master it. He was the only one that could adapt it to any genetical code that came in. It was why, while it took to the Emperor only 200 years, because the Custodes were created at the end of the Unification Wars, or midway through the...
No, they were created before the Unification Wars.
At the same time as the Thunder Warriors, as far as I thought.
I know this is a minor law correction, but...
Yeah, I know, but they were created during the Unification Wars anyway. I should read Baldur, Birth of the Imperium in its entirety. Anyway, and other than that, they were created, and after not only 200 years, they were already known as the Golden Legion or the 10,000 Sons. And not really the 10,000 Sons, because there is a legion for that, but the 10,000. And other than that, after he was entombed, after the war in the Webway, where the Custodians lost 9,000 of their own troops. To rebuild back up to 10,000, it took them the entirety of the story of Warhammer 40k. They were 10,000 again, only by the time the Battle of the Lion's Gate happened, after the creation of the
so we know that it is a difficult and slow process.
Yeah, no, wait a second. I'm not saying of the... let me finish. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that it is difficult.
This is definitely where I'm going to start to get irritated with Radham. Even if you just... I don't know what this lefty proclivity is to just talking over people you disagree with. You sound so much better if you let them finish and then crush every point that they just delivered, rather than like trying to overtalk them, interrupt them every time you think they got something slightly wrong. First of all, it's disrespectful to the other people engaging in the conversation, whether that's one or a panel like this. And second of all, how do you even know if you're actually correcting them? Because they haven't fucking finished talking. They could be about to say whatever you're about to say and address it in like a preemptive rebuttal. You need to let people fucking finish.
Live behind the blueprint to make female custodians, because we have never seen one in the Horus Heresy, in the Siege of Terra, in any of the books that is in that kind of period. So there is none. It is completely a retcon. They were always there. Yeah, they
so
were
just because something hasn't been mentioned before doesn't mean it doesn't exist. See, Belisarius Call, who was retconned into existence.
The call's been even retconned. Hold on, this is fake out right
No.
Okay, Belisarius Call being an Adeptus Mechanicus character is not the same level of retcon as now there are women in the Custodes. That was incredibly fucking stupid.
Heresy novels, right?
Just
There are,
anything
there are
he can
things being
grasp
done
at,
in
you
the
know?
same time period. We've never seen that.
This is
a
why the
total
lore part
lie
is
on their part,
dumb.
right?
No,
And
no,
as far
Who
like, yeah, all
cares?
that's fake news that you're spouting right now.
Fake
Let,
news.
let me explain a second then. Okay,
It's
we have
fake
never seen
news.
mention
Female
anywhere that the
custodians, they're
custodians can kill
terrible.
themselves.
They're
I'm gonna get
terrible.
back
I
to my
didn't sign
point.
off
Thank
on
you,
that. I
Pontius
wouldn't have
Claw.
signed
I'm
off
gonna
on
get
that,
back
but
to
they're
my point
terrible.
because you claimed that we do know a lot about the creation process,
but
and then
you,
went
no,
off on
you,
your
you,
massive
no,
tangent.
you didn't actually let me finish. The point is,
no, like,
Yeah, he didn't let him
Hey,
finish. He keeps trying to talk over
hey,
him.
Children,
Wait a second, wait a
children.
second.
I'm
Let
the
me-
think of me as the emperor here, not on a golden throne, but on a fucking mute button. Okay.
Did he
I will,
use it yet?
Exterminatus all your asses. Okay. We cannot have this where I get to just talk over everyone. We have to at least have some semblance of
God,
order.
I
will not have this turn into the Imperium of Man. I will keep it.
Wick
in
is so
as the Emperor intended.
base
With
for
that
keeping his
said, we are
chill
going to
for
let
most of this, but holy
Pontius
fuck,
Claw
I would
finish,
actually be
then we're
so
going to let
angry.
Radmom
I would be
respond, and then
yelling
I
at
have
these
another
people. This is
question
fucking
to drive this, and
ridiculous.
$10 from Pondering Politics to say, Wick, tell Connor, I demand he publicly acknowledge the fact that Darth Sidious is a cooler galactic emperor.
Bullshit.
I've said it before, and I will say it again. Darth Sidious looks like a ball sack, and on top of that, he would be a morning snack for the Emperor of mankind.
True.
We're passing it to Pontius. Go ahead, Pontius.
The point I'm trying to make is that we know that the process is very hard. It needs to be very precise because it has a very extremely high chance of killing the aspirant. It was mastered only by one person, the Emperor of Mankind, that isn't around to make more custodians any longer, and he left the blueprints to the custodians and the genetists that came after to make more. But the point is, he was the only master. And the genetical differences between males and females, as a chemist with two degrees, I know what they are.
As a
and trust me when I
chemist?
say that if he didn't left behind the blueprints on how to make custodians from females, how the fuck will they make them? Because they don't know how to adapt the process.
So
how?
You are making pure presumption that it didn't work on women.
That's what I want to ask him is like, how do you, he's very confident that it doesn't work, but also there seems to be no like lore that we can actually point to where we know it doesn't work on women. We know that gene seed implantation doesn't work on like women, but that's not what's involved with the process of creating a custodes. So yeah, I don't.
Like this is now your headcanon that it never worked on women.
We never saw any.
This is your headcanon. This is your headcanon.
It is the
and
canon
it's
until the
not,
retcon.
unfortunately, true or law.
Name one female custodian
they've
then before the
always been
retcon.
there. They have always.
Name
The
one.
law is now that they have always been a part of the 10,000.
Name
now
one
I'm
during
going to
your
go back
research.
to the actual point that I was making.
Name one during
That
your
we
research.
don't know much.
What is
about
name
the
one? That's not
custodes
an
creation
argument, buddy.
process at
I
all.
think.
We know they are not
Look,
female.
I am really hoping, and this is why I reached out to Pontius Claw. I'm really hoping that this reaction, this like irrational argumentation, is just a product of how condescending Radham is coming off as. And again, that could just be the British accent, but I think that he's like talking down to like how you would correct a kid, at least from my perspective. But like, if this is genuinely the positions that he's going to try and defend, is like, oh, there's female custodians, name one. Like that's not a good argument. There are plenty of good arguments to be made why female custodians are a poor lore inclusion. Counter's going to go on later to talk about how this is like a male power fantasy. This universe exists as a power fantasy for men. And the idea that like we're going to inject women into it can feel like an attack on men in to some people. I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? So I really hope that we can have a much more productive conversation. Hopefully when it's just one-on-one, we can be super chill about it.
No.
We know they are
We
not
don't
female.
know much about the. Please just let me speak.
No, sorry, I was repeating because.
Are you going to shut the fuck up
What the?
and let me speak?
After the insults you threw me on Twitter.
That's fucking the idea that Radham has been like over talking him and interrupting him the entire fucking time, and then now he's like, excuse me, could you let me finish? I need to speak. British people think they're the most fucking important people in a room every time. It's got to be the accent. It's got to go to their head somehow.
We know a lot, for example, about the Astartes creation process, and that has been tied to male only. We don't have that for the Custodes creation process. And the law that people are citing to go, okay, you know, it's always been men.
Nice.
First Custodes Codex, I believe, go past the bit like later in the paragraph where they're talking about giving up their noble sons, and you get to, the Custodes also seek out other suitable candidates by other means or encounter them by chance in their missions to protect the throne world. What is clear is that none besides the Custodes themselves truly know what criteria they require. The fact that Terran nobles have a tradition of offering their sons doesn't mean it only works on men.
Okay.
But okay, so
Name one
Bethesda
female
AI there.
custodian during your service.
What the
I
fuck?
wanna-
Yeah, buddy.
Last
That's
codex.
I want to.
yeah. I was gonna say you could literally just name the one they put in the codex.
Push this conversation forward just a bit, and just to ask you directly, Radhom, right? You said several times that you agree that the current lore says that men can only be Space Marines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is that something that
Wick
you would
qualifying with
mind if
current
it
lore
changed,
is
or
good
would you
here.
like to see it change? Do you think Warhammer should be more inclusive? What do you mean by that, and how do you mean it? Go ahead.
I'm neutral on female Space Marines. I think
I'm
there
not.
are ways that it could be implemented well. I think there are ways that could be implemented badly. There are a lot of people who really like the idea. People have been...
I hate the idea of female Space Marines with one exception. I think that Chaos would probably jam whoever the fuck they can find into a suit of Astartes armor, whether it works or whether it doesn't. And I am curious to ask Law that tomorrow if where he falls with me on that. But like as for like Imperium ones, it doesn't make any thematic sense for the faction that doesn't invent anything. I hate Primaris for the same reason, by the way. It doesn't make any sense thematically for the faction that doesn't invent everything, that just relies on ancient technology to all of a sudden invent a new, because it would literally have to be like a new invention to like, you know.
Converting up female Space Marine armies since day one. Since 1987, you can find some.
That doesn't make it legit, like, you know.
I don't think it would be a huge deal. I don't have a problem with it. I think the thing that's most likely to make it happen is the anti-woke culture war mob that Games Workshop.
This is dumb. No, shut up. No, this is him pushing that whole. This is him reinforcing the dumbass chud narrative that they're only doing us to push us out of the hobby. Like. This is no. Any decision that Games Workshop makes with regards to the lore is made in a cynical bid for money. That is it.
Shrieking and bullying is what's going to make female Astartes more likely to happen as Games Workshop goes, how else can we tell these people to fuck off?
That's so dumb.
I don't think there's any issue. I mean, they've already.
And you know what?
A way
You know
for
what? They shouldn't tell them to fuck off. They shouldn't. These people, I think that, like, as much as I despise engaging with the Chuds sometimes, and as much as I know they're going to clip farm me out of me saying that part, they're never going to listen to this. They have a point. They're longtime Warhammer fans, too. Their voices matter as well. And the fact that they're being so callously dismissed by Rad here is just, like, so indicative of how little he actually cares for the well-being of the hobby. He just wants his safe space with his friends. He doesn't care about a lasting game. He doesn't care about, like, bringing more people in. He doesn't care about the success of 40K. He only cares about what he and his little circle jerk buddies are involved in. It's fucking dumb.
Them to do it with the Primaris. I don't think it's a big deal. Would I want it? We got the Adeptus Sororitas. I don't think it's necessarily like necessary, but if there's like, with the new Amazon shit that's coming out.
Oh god, don't bring that up. They're gonna jump on that.
More people getting involved, because let's be honest, right? More people that are buying plastic means more for our hobby, right? I want more 40K stuff. I want better video games. I want
what he's saying right now.
Shitty shows. I mean, they're not shitty. They're absolutely lovely on Warhammer TV. Wouldn't it be amazing to have more series like the Angels of Death? Like it would be dope. We get that with more people being included into it. I'm totally down for this.
Yeah, then just let me ask Pontius and counterpoint. Let me go to counterpoints first, right? We got to get you in here a little bit. Counterpoints. Why don't we want it to be more inclusive? Why would it be a bad thing? Go ahead.
Number one,
question to put it like that.
So if we accept that there are safe spaces for minorities and
this is
POC
the best
women,
argument.
Sometimes it's nice to have a nice little space where you don't have to justify yourself to anybody and you can kind of do your thing and enjoy yourself. Then we should acknowledge that men need that as well. And I think that telling horrific stories of battle and
Yup.
crazy setting that warp the mind about how hardcore they are. That is something that I think young boys and young men
Look,
need.
this is gonna be my most conservative take of the night, probably. But guess what? Guys like war. Guys like fighting. I don't know what it is, but my partner has zero interest in the 40K setting, and she's explicitly said numerous times it has primarily to do with how like dark and dour it is. But that's why I love it. So like, yeah, the 100%. I think that it's totally fair. If we're gonna have all of these he used the word safe space. I would say accommodating space is probably better. If we're going to accommodate different types of personalities, we need to have an accommodating space for the hyper-masculine ones where they can be expressed in a healthy way. And playing a miniatures game where you act out epic battles that have a shitload of cool lore behind them, that is what it is, right? So...
I think thematically, it doesn't make sense. I think thematically, if you wanted to have female warriors, there's already factions that meet that. When you're talking about female pilots of Titans and Knights, when you're talking about female Imperial Guard, when you're talking about female Sisters of Battle, I think the progressive quota has already been met. If people insist on genetically
shut up, Wokies. We gave you what you want.
Female soldiers after this, then the way that I would like to do it is two routes. One, you already got Custodes, so I would kindly like it if you took the dub and shut the fuck up and walked away. But then two, I would like to see Sisters of Battle get a modest
Wait, do you think they will though?
And then hold on.
No, that's what I was
no, I don't think they will. But I would like them to. And then also I would like.
Let's wait.
But hold on, I'm not done yet.
No, I was telling Gibbs. Sorry.
The Sisters of Battle, I would like to see them get a modest boost.
That would be nice.
An in-canon lore reason for them to be more tactical instead of more churchy, because I think a lot of people are turned off by how churchy the
and
Sisters of Battle
those people are fucking wrong. I just read the part of the Fall of Cadia today, or I listened to it rather, where Celestine appears. And the whole Arcanthos standing in like the blood of like the bodies of sisters, and they all start chanting and glowing with a heavenly light. She's coming, she's coming. That is badass. That is badass. Anybody who doesn't like the sisters' churchiness is wrong.
This is
objectively,
a lot of videos
and they are
with,
ontologically evil.
The like conversation around this, right? I hear a lot of people talking about POCs, and there's
Just
already
blow up his own guys. Good job, Bethesda.
We've already been woke in Warhammer 40K. We got Jagatai Khan. I hate to be the cornball to say he's fucking Vulcan, but Vulcan does look black, so I'm gonna just say
he's blowing up his own
we got
dude.
Jonah.
Jesus Christ.
We gonna make the lion black. We gonna get there, okay? All right, that is going to happen, okay? But then we got Jonah Orion from the Blood Ravens in the Dawn of War series.
Very quick interjection.
I get what, very quick interjection by the snobby Brit, but I get what he's saying here. I don't like that he's granting that that's wokeness. Anytime I hear that term, I'm just gonna fight against it. You need to just actually critique what your problem is. If it's a gay character existing and you're gonna say, oh, my problem with it is woke, no, it seems like you might just have an issue with a gay character, which is fine. We could have a conversation about why you have an issue with that. But like, cloaking it in this is woke or this isn't woke, and then like reinforcing that by saying, well, woke culture does this and woke culture does that. I mean, woke culture in general is just, to me anyways, I should probably define that. So when I say woke culture, like, and I'm being serious, I'm talking more about like the hyper progressive, we are going to cram down your throat every progressive idea possible in its most extreme forms. I think progressivism is obviously a net good. The acceptance of more people, the inclusion of more people seems to have led to higher levels of productivity, seems to have led to, a boost in the economy. Whenever there's different ideas that are presented in boardrooms when you include women or people of color, blah, 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 blah. Like, there's plenty of benefits to progressivism and progressive ideas. Wokeism is when you champion them as a sole alternative to everything that presently exists. You can meld progressive ideas into our already functioning society and advance our already functioning society into a better society. But we cannot suspend our already functioning society to supplement it with all of this like over-the-top bullshit like, oh, dear gender this, and trans baby that. Like, no, fuck that, no.
just because we are talking about retcons and things. Salamanders used to be just like of black skin tone, and then they got retconned to have a gene seed flaw so that they're all coal black. Please continue.
So, see, I didn't even know that. Thank you for putting. So they were black, yes, but there was also the Celestial Lions too. So I mean, Thousand Sons. Where do you think they got that? You know, come on, man. Egypt's in Africa. I think a lot of people are.
Oh
afraid of,
no,
like,
it's the Emma
woke rock. It's
Bigland
already been here,
line.
and you guys haven't figured it out.
Where is
But
Egypt
this
again?
Hold on,
40K's
Majin.
been like 40K's like Star Trek, bro. They've been talking about these issues from
But
since
doesn't
way
it make
back
the
in the
game
day.
like? And is the game better today for it or worse? Is it better or worse that
That's
we
the
have more and
question.
more where they're focusing on things like, oh look, you wanted black people and women, here you go, without
I
improving
mean,
your game?
the retcon was they were already black. They changed them from being black. How what Radham just said. They changed them from being black to like people with coal skin because of their genetic.
I was about to say, fucking the salamanders have always been West African black in my mind, partially because of Hell's Reach, but also because like having like. I loved I don't know if you guys saw Pariah Nexus, but I thought Pariah Nexus was fucking hilarious because it was the perfect opportunity for them to be woke and to make it a West African black guy, and they made him fucking Asian. They made him Asian.
I don't know what I'm sorry, I don't know what specific story they're talking about.
Asian. It was fucking hysterical.
My bad. Fake fan, tourist.
Back to the topic for a second because
sorry.
it was a single. No worries. It was for a time my turn. I find it hilarious that Radom talks about the bullies, the hateful of the anti-woke mob of the gatekeepers when he's fucking friends with Shale, Cerberus, Beachhammer, all spineless fucking people with block list on hundreds of thousands of people that have bullied and doxed people because they didn't agree with them. Radom, you are really hilarious if you think you are the good guys in here. Other than that, I want to ask a simple
I'm
question.
very sorry that people responded to the bullying of the self-appointed Chudhammer mob who...
I'm going to say two things here. One, I know for a fact that some of the things that Glaw is saying are true, because I have been on the receiving end of some of this bullshit from the Wokehammer people. Okay, that's not to say that the Chudhammer people are vindicated, because they're big dipshits too. They're both big dipshits, both groups. So that's number one. Number two is that I am super duper uninterested in litigating who started it first. As I said recently with regards to, I think it was paint shaming, I don't care. Which group is going to be the one to step up and say, you know what, you can throw all of this shit at our face. You can say all this shit to us. You can call us Nazis, or you can call us Slanesh demons, or blah, blah, blah. But we don't fucking care. We're just going to play with our minis. We're just going to move on. It seems like there is an inability for both communities to recognize the part that they play into feeding into each other's like hatred and fueling the fire of that conflict. Somebody needs to step down. Somebody needs to just be the bigger person and just start ignoring people. And I don't mean blocking them like all of the wokies tend to do, where they just chain block anybody who disagrees with them. I mean, be the bigger person and just move on. Enjoy the game with your friends, and don't stop caring so much about the opinions of idiots. All right? That's all.
Trying to gatekeep people out of the fucking hobby.
You
I'm
started
really
this war,
fucking
we
fucking
simply kept
sorry
fighting
if
it.
they responded in kind.
That's
hide on Twitter where they cannot be fucking touched. Radom, you are a coward. You are here only because you.
I will
didn't know
say it's
would
wholly
be here.
inappropriate
I
of
asked you
Glaw to
for a
bring
debate
this up in the
months
middle
ago,
of
you
an
never
actual
turned up.
debate.
Other than that, I want to ask a question.
Check your DMs. Check your Twitter DMs.
No,
I was
saw the
doing
post on
full-time work
Twitter.
at the time.
You're welcome.
Good
Check
for
your
you.
Twitter
I saw
Yeah,
the post.
Gibbs, you're welcome,
Wick.
Wick.
For the debate.
Well,
But other than
he's
that,
here now in his defense. So
good for him, finally. Other than that, I want to ask a
Based.
simple question. Other than you
Based
know,
Glaw.
the fucking awful
I see
friends
it,
he has and connects with. When it is enough diversity, when it is enough inclusivity, When do we say, okay, we have enough?
That is a legitimate
there were
question.
two single armies of males and females in Warhammer 40k before this retcon. It was Sisters of Silence and Sisters of Battle that were all female, Custodians and Astartes that are all male. Now the Custodians are mixed. Do we need the males in the Sisters of Silence
I need
and
to
Sisters of
correct you
Battle?
here.
I need to
because you are
correct you,
very
Shaw.
fucking
You
wrong.
are very
Sisters of
fucking
Silence are not
wrong.
a separate army. Sisters of Silence are not a separate army. They are
Then why do we
adjunct.
need
They are an
female
auxiliary
custodians?
force that fights along the Custodes. They are
This
part of the
is so
Adeptus Custodes
bullshit.
They are the
This
one
is
codex
bull.
battle.
This is such a disingenuous fucking deflection or misdirection from Radham. If we're talking about the lore, they are their own faction. There are no Custodes aboard the Black Ship. All right? You can, if we want to talk about the lore, we can talk about the lore. If we want to talk about the game, we can talk about that too. But holy shit, the disingenuous like pivoting there. Actually, I think you'll find that they're in the Custodes Codex.
have
The,
male miniatures in their codex.
Here's a question.
Sisters of Battle have male
Yeah,
miniatures in their
you
codex.
know
Hold
they're
on,
not
hold on.
sisters.
Okay,
They're
hold
Hold on,
auxiliaries.
hold on,
you
all
know
of you,
that.
please, please.
And
Yeah.
To the
we know,
question
but-
though, and the question that was asked, and I am curious, when will it be enough, right? Like when do
Well, I
we
wanna answer
draw
that
that
question.
line? We will see. I see you, Gibbs. I want to hear Radham. He was asked a question. I want to give him a chance to actually answer the question, and then we'll
The
pass it to you,
asshole.
Gibbs, I promise.
Freudian
Go
slip
ahead,
there.
Radham.
I don't think that 40k itself needs to change. And
But
I
yet
don't
you
think
push for
change
change.
is bad.
Wow.
Like 40k has always changed. 40k will always change. This is just a part of how 40k works. I think what needs to happen from like a wokeness perspective is for Games Workshop to do some house cleaning, which they have been doing, to make it clear that people of all various genders and sexualities and ethnicities are very welcome in the hobby and in their stores. And Games Workshop has been getting better at that over the years.
I really need to
When
hear.
has that been ever under
Yeah, I was gonna
discussion?
say.
When did you even hear about an incident where a person, female, trans, or black, was kept out of anything? Why did you even hear about? I don't
Pretty
know,
sure that
Machine is a
the
black
other
guy.
woke hammer
Why
guy is
did you
about to
even
go, yeah, that
Machine,
literally
have you
has
ever had
never
experiences
happened to
where you were
me.
kicked out of shops where, because you were black, because people were racist against you in shops because you were black?
You're muted, brother.
No, I haven't had that, and not at GW at least. It's been very warm and welcoming.
This is a non-issue, is what he's saying.
Agreed with
Nice.
agreed,
I wanna
Gibbs.
pass the- I wanna
Agreed.
pass-
Well,
Ball to-
okay,
hold on.
when will it stop?
Well,
I want to pass the ball to Gibbs. He's been really
I
trying.
don't know that it's a non-issue, but it doesn't nearly seem to be the issue that like Radham is trying to make. Like, I don't think. Look, everybody likes to take that Austrian painter guy and blow that up as like this is what Warhammer represents, but like that was one guy and nobody wanted to fucking play with him. All right, pretty sure that he's an outlier and pretty sure this isn't as big a deal as Radham's trying to make it out to be.
And,
Yeah.
and we
I'll
gotta
have to wait.
give him some more time. Go
By
ahead,
the
Gibbs.
way, I only have a conversation set up with Glaw, but if Radham wants to come on and like share any of his opinions on any of this, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with him. I am dogging on him just as much as I'm dogging on pretty much everybody else.
Yeah, I want to say
If not more.
one thing. First, we're gonna do lore collection. The Emperor talks a
But
lot.
he
This is one of
won't.
the first points I wanted to make earlier. The Emperor talks a lot about how the Sons might be cold. Maybe the Emperor doesn't, but there's a lot of curiosity even between the loyal Sons whether or not they're gonna get cold at the end. So I don't know about building the residence under the palace meant anything. I think that's just more representation of power. As for the other stuff,
I don't think
what
it's
is it?
Gilliman.
What is enough?
Yeah, I
That's
think
the real
Gilliman is the
question, right?
first one to
We
go.
don't- it's
Fuck that
never enough.
dude.
Already today, the big push for
Reboot.
change in Warhammer now
Robot
is to
girly
make the
man.
Sisters of Battle trans. That's what the new push is.
You get that
All the
from?
sisters- It's all over. It's all over the Woke Hammer Watch side. Just go watch it. Just look on Twitter. It's a wasteland. Enjoy Twitter. It's fun, and it'll show you all sorts of good stuff. And today
That was
the big
discourse
push.
from several months ago.
No, it's new. It's back up today because they got their win. They didn't
That
take
is
the ball
true.
and go home. They're now
Yeah.
going, hey, it's a snowball, and we're gonna roll it down the hill and turn it into an avalanche.
That
That's
is
what we're-
true. I literally got into an argument with Cerberus, who was the one before they ended up blocking me. Where I was like, where they posted some like smutty ass femboy sisters picture, and I think what I said was like, can we not at least like feed the Coomer allegations from the Chuds? And they got all up in arms. The fact that they called me a pearl clutcher. I don't give a fuck what you jerk off to in your own private time. All right, that's up to you. That's between you and the Lord. All right, well, not this Lord, but my dad. Okay, that's between you and my dad. But if you want to quiet the like allegations, or you want to make them seem less substantial when the Chuds go, they're they're all gross, degenerate coomers who only think about sex and only masturbate, blah, 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 then maybe just don't post femboy smut, okay? You're just fueling the fire.
And when we talk about inclusivity, there's lots of inclusivity they can still do. Sure, where are my Aztec
We might not.
Marines? I don't got any planet Quetzalcoatl Marines from anywhere. No, we're gonna sit here and do lip service to only hot button issues and go do some crazy shit. And
that is a very good
to,
point by Gibbs.
It's a bad move. And then we're gonna see all of it turns out. And I come from another franchise, Star Wars. We have seen how abysmally Star Wars has done since they've been woke to be just woke. Well, originally, Star Wars was leftist. There's lots of evidence of this. George Lucas was left-leaning. All of this, when it comes out throughout history, you go and look, and you see like leftist themes throughout Star Wars, right? Still, I enjoyed it. But now, instead of being just leftist, it went woke for the sake of being woke, and it's just been an abysmal failure. And you can just look at it. You can just look at it and see this. And maybe, yeah, we do need some gatekeeping because we don't need wokeism infecting 40K and ruining it for everybody. Nobody wins when that happens.
So,
wasn't there a lost legion called Quetzalcoatl?
The companies that run IPs,
there could be. I don't know.
Don't like gatekeepers. It's bad for their bottom dollar.
No, it's not. It's not.
No, gatekeepers are bad for the bottom dollar.
Once you lose your core audience, you lose your dollar.
True. Unless you can supplement them with a new audience.
Star Trek is still profitable.
Not as
Doctor Who is still profitable.
Correction. The last 3 shows of Star Trek were a complete failure. Even Picard, the first season, was a failure.
Oh god, yeah.
Wasn't. The new trilogy of Star Wars and some of the shows even are doing diminishing returns, with the first movie doing 4 billion.
Halo
2.
Fuck, Halo sucks dick.
And the third one is actually considered a flop because it was marketed and made with more than $1 billion. So,
I mean, Halo went woke. Like, it's such an easy concept for them. Went woke for being sake of woke.
A lot of the profit from Star Wars does and always has come from toy sales.
Yeah, that they
what the
don't
fuck
sell.
point are you trying to make there, dude?
Buy on $1 on the toys.
Wait, that's okay. I'm just gonna say it now. That is bullshit when it comes to like the most recent stuff. Like, go into a Walmart, look at the shelves, Star Wars toys everywhere. Nobody's fucking buying them. So you can like say that and then go back to painting your mini and like blah blah blah. But like that's a complete fucking not only is it a misdirection, it's not true. With regards to like the recent okay. It is true that Star Wars has historically made the majority of its profit from toy sales. That had to do largely with George Lucas's prudence to like make toys for the franchise, which was something that was brand new, had never been done with regards to like a major motion picture franchise. But just because that's true, what point is he trying to make there? The accusation being made is that Star Wars going woke has led to it being less popular and thus less profitable, which both can be measured and demonstrated. And his response is, well, actually, I think you'll find that they make most of their money from toys. What?
Just a quick question, and this is to counter side, so counter Pontius and Gibbs here. Are these changes risking you from leaving the hobby? Like, maybe this isn't the line, but say they did.
Here's my hard take on that. If anybody leaves the hobby because of female custodies, you're a weak little bitch.
Come out and say that, yes, actually,
you should be leaving the hobby because it's too expensive. No other reason.
You have to allow female.
Leaving the hobby for political reasons is like weak as fuck.
To make you leave? Like, where's your line? I guess I would ask for Lord.
It is enough. I want to answer that because I'll probably be the least spicy while still saying yes. Yeah, it eventually will be enough. The reason why I don't deal with Star Wars half as much as I deal with 40K is because I love grimdark. I love the setting. I love the stories of fraternal stuff. So if I feel like that's something that I can share with my son, then yeah, I'm going to share it with my son. But if I feel like it's been feminized and pussified...
This is actually a criticism against capitalism, to be honest, because like all corporations will gravitate towards what rewards them the most with immediate sales. And like, that's progressivism right now. But the problem is that when you start doing that and you start doing it at the expense of like maintaining your brand integrity, you start slowly coalescing every single universe, every IP, everything into this like one homogenous like garbage mess of like just the same thing over and over and over again. So like I agree that is something that's happening and it's bad, but that is just kind of, that's what the market is doing. So I'm not necessarily an anti-capitalist anymore, but like that is a very valid critique of capitalism with regards to artistic production.
To the point that it's no longer a value, then yeah, eventually I will leave. And that
Do you think
will
it's actually
include-
close to that though? I don't even think it's close.
Custodes is not. And see, here's the thing too. Like I kind of want to push back on Gibbs' sentiment a little bit. Like, yeah, this could be. This is like the canary in the coal mine starting to sing a little bit for me. But it's not existential. 99% of GW material still remains grimdark.
That is the thing to
horror,
keep in mind, yeah.
gritty action, horrific
One
violence,
minor change,
hardcore
one
characters,
line in a
well-written
codex does
narratives.
not an
Adding
entire
things on
universe
Custodes doesn't
unwrite.
change 95 to 99% of GW media.
Okay,
That's where I'm
same
at with
question same question to Pontius and then to Gibbs. Pontius, where is there a line for you, lore-wise, where you'd be just like, okay, fuck this, I'm done.
I don't think there is a line for fuck this I'm done for one simple reason. If female space marines happen, my attitude will do a 180 on the franchise. Be mindful. I don't mean that I would be on board with them. I will pass from, yeah, let's gatekeep to defend the franchise to let's burn it down. Let's destroy it. If I cannot have it, if the true fans cannot have it, I will see it burn down. Like, I am renowned for being a gatekeeper. Many people follow me, many people do as I say, even if I never use that. But my point is, I even learned the language I'm speaking now through 40k. I live and breathe 40k lore. The main thing that attracts me about 40k is the grim darkness, the fact that the universe itself is nothing like we are. We try to be
I don't see that
compassionate,
ever
we try
changing, to be honest.
open-minded. The Imperium doesn't. The Imperium is brutal to the core. The fastest way is the way. It doesn't matter if it costs billions of lives. That means that every single good action that comes out of the Imperium stands out more, because this setting is a lot more destroyed in that sense. Every single good person that is in it is a unique gem that you can get attached to. In fact, my favorite character of the entire series is Dante, that is the chapter master of the Blood Angels, because it is a constant fight between being a knight, being an angel, and being a monster, like all Blood Angels are on the other
Boo,
side.
boring.
But, what I want to say
Boring
is,
loyalist
the
shit,
moment you try to
boo.
infiltrate progressivism in 40k, you are pretty much just throwing even more gasoline on the fire, because 40k is not built for progressivism. They killed the alien, they killed the mutant, they killed the
I actually agree with that point. And this is a big part of why most of these progressive changes I'm going to be against. 40k as a universe is not set up to accommodate your progressive like ideology. If everyone is fighting, we don't have time to sit around and talk about, well, what does being trans really mean? Or, you know, now that I think about it, is there any merit to like polygamy or blah, blah, blah? You know what I mean? Like, no, everybody's fighting and dying constantly. The entire Imperium is one massive war machine that exists to perpetuate war against its enemies. They are incredibly racist. They're like incredibly, well, xenophobic, I think would be the better term. Like, it just doesn't fit thematically.
In the
like with the
40K,
female
it's very
custodian.
easy. You can just say, I don't want to work for you. You will be executed instantly as an heretic. The moment you say that. And if you try to put, oh yeah, females were always in the Space Marines, they were always in the Custodians, you do some girl power characters like it was Rey from Star Wars, you destroy the Grimdark, because it tries to stay grounded in the idea that humans, like the rest of the universe, are awful. They are fucking awful. Where does progressivism have space in a universe?
That is so
where
true.
killing
I need to
billions
make sure
is
I
good
mention
as
that
long as
tomorrow. I
as
100%
long as
agree with
people
everything you're
consider
saying
it
right now.
Like, the mentality of the Imperium is that it doesn't advance, it doesn't accept, it hates everything different. So, why would progressivism be compatible?
Go ahead, other side.
Yep. I'll keep this quick, Admiral Gibbs.
Yeah, I was about to hop in.
So, the Imperium is a progressive critique of some of the worst aspects of humanity. Like, the Imperium is not an aspirational state. Most of the problems that the Imperium faces...
I don't think you have to be a progressive to recognize that the Imperium is evil. So attributing it as a progressive critique, I don't think is... I think it is meant to be a liberal critique. Which isn't necessarily progressive, but okay, Rad. You go, girl.
Being created or exacerbated by the Imperium's failings. Like, the Imperium itself is not progressive, but it also doesn't have our modern bigotries. The Imperium doesn't care what your sex or gender or sexuality or ethnicity is.
As long as you can hold a las gun.
How dearly it can spend your life
being
to
a
suffer
machine
and die for the Imperium. The Imperium has its own specific bigotries, the mutant, the psyker, the heretic, all of that. But, like, the Imperium doesn't have, like, viewing female Astartes as being, female Astartes or female Custodes as being a progressive decision in the lore from the Imperium is to not understand the Imperium or the setting.
One of the sayings.
Before we get into it back and forth on this, I do want to hear Gibbs's answer. I didn't mean to skip him.
I do want to add to him real quick, because oh, my bad, man. I haven't said nothing, dog.
Yeah, Whick should have let him finish there. That poor guy has said barely fucking anything. He should have let him finish there.
Anybody that's got a larger Star Wars collection than me, I've had it valued like well over $88,000 worth. That's just like mainly books, right?
Jesus, I hope that's in your insurance.
Yeah, it is.
Fuck yeah.
You bet your ass. I have all sorts of stuff. My house is like, I'm a collector. I like to collect things. I have A&M.
This is why Gibbs and I would be friends.
I have, Star Wars stuff all over the house.
Except you don't have an army.
Yeah, well, see, we're getting to that, right? And, you know, I have all these things, and I support companies with my pocketbook. Just the other night, I was talking to somebody, and I was talking about how Helldivers is doing so good, and I'm like, well, you know, I would
not anymore
back, because it's so refreshing to see a company listen to their fan base and doing a game well, right? After I've had abysmal failures from companies like Halo that I love. I've gone away. I barely play Halo anymore, and that's my bread and butter. That's what I come from. That's how I started Twitch. That's how I got known in the communities. Like, that's my, like, I barely play Halo. It's been such a bumbling of a failure. Now, that's not necessarily wokeism. However, the show has been wokeism problems. The overall, yeah, I support companies with my bottom dollar. I've been very much getting into 40K because I've said, okay, I've enjoyed the setting. I love it. And, you know, as Manja mentioned, I don't have an army. Well, there are armies I would like to get. However, now I am much more hesitant because I look and, you know, when first came out with Call, right? Everybody hated him, but they did pretty good lore on him. Most people like him as a character now. To me, Primar seemed like a money grab, so be it. But now that was one shot. You know, you get a little pebble rolling. Then you get the next pebble rolling, right? Now we got the Imston.
I don't.
At some point, you have
so
to
the only relation that I can see between female Custodes and Primaris is that it is a change that was made to the lore, the long-standing lore. I don't really see how, like, Primaris are progressive.
Because it does reach this point to where people like me, which are the ones that spend the money, stop spending the money on the hobby, and that will hurt your bottom dollar, especially when you make most of your money from something that can be easily 3D printed. Like, that's going to be something that's going to be hurting them very soon as 3D printers become more prevalent. And I think that if you get rid of your core market, which I know is, 25-year-old men or older, mostly spending their disposable income on this, and you push them out because you're doing stuff just to make it woke for the sake of being woke without any good writing, whenever you have wonderful female characters all throughout the lore. Like, look at Beckwin right now. Great female character. You know, but you're going to shoe into female Custodes just to get.
How about Helska? I know she's about to die, probably.
Seems like a bad decision to me.
Okay.
I know that Helska's about to die in the book where I'm at, but, like, she's pretty cool.
They didn't.
This isn't just some fucking new pivot.
They could have done it, they were stopped, and now they shouldn't have done it. To answer actually to the point of Radom about the fact, they are not progressives in our sense, but if you think adding female space marines to the lore would cause problems with it, you don't understand the Imperium. The addition of the Primaris almost caused a civil war. There are chapters that hate them. Majin plays one of them. The Dark Angels don't trust the Primaris. If it wasn't for
they killed them.
Attack them as mutants. There are chapters like the Flesh Terrors
that's actually
mutants. There are other chapters that simply don't.
That's actually, if I recall correctly, when Primaris Marines showed up to the Dark Angels, when they like Call sent them their like retinue of Primaris Marines, they fucking killed them all because they were so suspicious and untrustworthy. I mean, the Dark Angels not trusting anybody, to be fair, is kind of the meme with them, but like at the same time, like, yeah, they really don't like them.
and don't want them at all. Simply put, it is an advancement that is seen as a mutation of the emperor work, and the majority of the
And
chapters
heresy.
want nothing to do
It's
with it.
heresy.
They are accepting it because it is their times, they need them. It is Reboot coming and saying, don't be stupid, please accept my soldiers. But in general, if there wasn't Reboot there, the Primaris would have been against the Firstborn. It would have been Horus Heresy 2.0.
Yeah, I want to point something out. So for instance, like the Qing dynasty, I don't expect everybody to be huge Chinese history buffs, but there were people who were trying to reform the Chinese empire in the late 19th and early 20th century. And what happened was the reformers actually achieved some crazy, like, positive things that were actually, like, seen to put China on the up and up. And then the traditionalists would basically, like, end up screwing over the progress. So that's where, like, what I would be interested in, so let's say that we have this progress with the Primaris, right? If you want to tell the story of how progress is difficult in deeply theocratic, fascistic, authoritarian nations, and as a result, it causes so many problems. That's potentially an interesting narrative. But if you just go, somehow women returned, then that story is going to fucking suck, and I'm going to boo it from the sidelines. So you have to tell a good story.
Yeah, like I said, there are good ways they can add it in the lore. There are bad ways they can add it in the lore. And I agree that, you know, some chapters would fucking hate it. Now, I do think that Pontius.
Well, and I would play a sexist capture.
By the way, I just want to. I'm going to call this. I'm going to call this the FSM effect. But it seems like every time anybody talks about like anything 40K related, and there's like disagreement, eventually it devolves into the fucking female Space Marines debate. Same with the whole. Every political discussion turns into Israel-Palestine these days.
No, Astartes. I'm just going to be like, nah. Like I'm just going to be like, nah. I'm sexist chapter.
They're your war dollies.
Yep.
You can do what you like with them.
Yes, as long as it doesn't become canon.
But I think that Pontius has, at least to my knowledge, overstated how many of the chapters outright rejected the Primaris.
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot of them.
It's a lot of chapters. It's more than a handful.
No,
it's a handful of stories.
Hold on. It's a handful of stories.
There's definitely like a lot of there's plenty of lore out now stating that the Primaris have been a problem across the board. Like,
but they're doing. But hold on, you and I know why they're doing that. They're doing that for narrative ambiguity. So if you want to play Firstborn, you can play Firstborn, and if you want to play Primaris, you can play Primaris. That's
see, it always goes back to the miniatures.
Showing the reasons of the Imperium, though.
Yeah, but within the lore aspect, I know from the outside perspective why they're doing it.
Hold on, but Red House said something that I'm actually really curious about. They're your war dollies. You can play them how you want, right? But that's not actually how I've seen it play out, at least on Twitter. So bear that in mind. This is all Twitter shit, okay? If you make a statement such as, I don't want my war dollies, right? I don't want trans people in my war dollies. I don't want women. I don't want any of these. They're all mutants, heretics, psychers, whatever. That isn't something that people just say, oh, okay, do with it as you will. That's not how these things are received, Red Hom. They're received.
Also, just to push on Whick here for a minute, all the chuds will go, oh, it's fine if you want to kit bash your own female Space Marines, just put women heads on your Space Marines. We don't care, but we just don't want it official in the lore, but we don't care, just do it. And then anytime you see anybody who's kit bash female Space Marines and posting pictures, they're quote tweeting and like making fun of it, roasting it, calling people to like hate mob it, like it goes both ways. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to be on this panel so bad, is because I knew that it was going to devolve into like he said, she said, they said, with like one group does this, one group does that, one group doesn't do this. Like both of these idiotic, like politically aligned Warhammer groups both want to do really dumb shit to the franchise, and both of them really hate the other one to the point where they are willing to engage in the same tactics that they condemn from one side. They're willing to engage in them themselves, and they see it as justified in doing so. And that's fucking dumb. It's children. It's all so juvenile.
It's, oh, you're a bigot, and you must be a Nazi. That's what
exactly.
And that's where you as a classic person should go, yeah, a little bit. I hate women a little.
What?
I hate
Base.
women a little. I don't want women in my war dolls.
A little.
No, but I want to add something actually.
I like having women in my war dollies, especially in the hobby in
I love
general.
all
I think
women,
there's
by
been
the
some
way.
fantastic female hobbyists who've
women.
done some really amazing things
And I love
with paint
black
jobs,
people.
conversion work.
I love black people and I love women, okay?
Pieces.
Not
One of the
racist,
best
not
painters
sexist.
I know works at GW. I ain't gonna say her government name, but phenomenal painter.
Oh,
Hands
are we
down,
fighting the behemoth
I
now?
get to sing you some stuff, Connor. She is phenomenal. Great addition to the community.
But I want to,
you go first, but I'll hold on to my my thought.
Yeah, no problem. What I want to add actually is a little point that I had in mind, because as I explained, even with Majin, with his own personal experiences, there isn't really that much bigotry in the hobby as people claim it to be. Like, I am Italian, so by technicality it is a disability. No, I'm joking around a bit. But
God, why do Italians self-hate so
discriminate
much?
against you for anything. I'm the first, and I'm a gatekeeper. As long as we can agree that the lore has to stay consistent, has to stay good, and not get influenced by the outside. I don't care your gender. I don't care your color or the skin, where you come from, what you believe in. We are gatekeepers. We are brothers. But what I would argue actually is that the progressives are actually the true bigots in all of this, because all they do is change male factions or male characters into female factions and female characters. I will beat people up to have more novels and more models of female Imperial Guard, female Sisters of Silence, female Sisters of Battle, having more female characters of the mechanic. Throw them at me. I want them. I want more female characters that are well written and are good. But if you just go the cheap way of taking, oh yeah, this is a male-only faction, we cannot have men have that. Bring the females in it, we need them. That is the cheap way, and you are not even doing it in a good way. And I will not love those characters. I will hate them because they are introduced for political reasons. Give me more female representation, that matters. Don't do like the bigots of the
As long as they're not super.
There was a term that was coined by, I think it was Jay from Red Letter Media, called, and it was passive progressivism. And the idea is that a corporation will act progressive notions or progressive ideology for the sole purpose of garnering more financial benefit. So his example was the ending scene of Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, where there's a lesbian kiss, but it's blurred out in the background. But Disney was all toting everywhere. There's a gay kiss, and it was removed from the Chinese version. There's a gay kiss in Star Wars, first gay kiss in Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. And number one, Star Trek Deep Space Nine did it in the 90s, so nobody fucking cares. You guys are way late to the party on that, number one. Number two, that's not progressive. What's progressive about that? It is the inclusion. It's the fact that there is a lesbian character you can point to doesn't make you progressive. In fact, it almost makes you the opposite of that, because you think that inserting that minority equates to representation. And obviously, it is representation in the most bare minimum sense. And that's what I would really like to see the Wokehammer community push back on, is the idea that just including women isn't, how is that progressive, right? If anything, it's anti-progressive. It's well, now there's girls too. And it's well, okay, if we think about some of the arguments when it comes to transgenderism, okay, a lot of that comes from the Judith Butler camp, right? The idea being that gender is a performance. How are they women in any meaningful sense? Their performance, their social performance has very little to do with femininity. They're fucking warriors in massive armor. I don't understand how you can display social characteristics of femininity. If anything, I would say that 40K doesn't have genders, more or less, with specific exceptions, being the Sisters of Silence, the Sisters of Battle, and the Astartes. The Astartes are all men, and those two factions are all women. But outside of that, gender plays very little role with regards to the Imperium and its daily operations, at least from what I understand.
Soldiers.
As long as they're not super soldiers, because
I mean, hold on, but
Sisters of Battle and nobody would give a fuck.
regardless,
his because there.
Also, I would give a fuck because the whole point of the Sisters of Battle, there is a lore. There is a lore. Okay, I'm going to address this real quick. There is a lore reason why the Sisters of Battle are all female. So changing them to include males would be directly going against the lore. The existing lore, sorry.
That are not in their faction. They have their own exclusive faction. Bring more books with them. Bring more female.
You said I do not want female super soldiers.
Yes, I do not want female Astartes or female custodians. You want to make a
Personally,
There are female super
even if you get into
what
the
if
lore,
what if there was Gene Seed for Sisters of Battle, but it wasn't called Gene Seed?
good, then, but you need a very good lore behind it. Bring
I
me
mean,
a
but
good
we
lore that explains
already
it.
have that. We already have it.
and the Sisters of Battle are already super strong. They could pray away anything. A Necron blast hits them. They're saved because they pray
Well,
to
yeah.
But
Sisters of Battle are
whatever
badass.
it is.
You know what I'm saying? Belisarius Call says, "I want some big titty goth mommies or
They have
whatever."
that. They have that.
He
But
rolls
even-
out.
even the
$5.
sister-
$5
He
from
rolls
Testicle
out with
Johnson.
gene editing, and he makes some 6-foot tall goth mommies in power armor. Right?
Compromise.
They have-
Like so, Gibbs, you were saying they already have that. What are you saying they have?
Well, I'm gonna let Rick read his money first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
$5.
Let Wick
from
get
Testicle
let the
Johnson.
man make his money.
Compromise, allow female Space Marines, but get them huge knockers. Everyone is happy. Thank you for $5.
No,
Listen,
that's
hold
not
on.
indie shit.
So in the
Real
newest
quick, the
Belfarius,
Sisters of Battle, and I'll pass it right to you.
Based.
Even in the tabletop, the Sister of Battles are still one of the best armies to own because of Miracle Dice. Like even if this is more to like the other side's argument, if there's people that get into the lore, they will find strong women characters throughout it. It's true to what Connor says. It's just not the Space Marines. It's just not the Adeptus
I mean,
Custodians.
we do, yeah. So they already have like the genetically souped up females, like in the newest what was it, the Renegades novel, Harrow Master, right? Two of the workers that work for one of the like the dark mechanical characters are gene altered, like super beings. They're basically just your big titty muscle mommy.
Wait,
wife.
hold on. Are they chaos though?
Yeah, well, these are
Dark
well, they're
Mechanical,
chaos.
yeah, they're
they're dark
Base.
mechanical, but they're also
Yeah.
See,
but he
chaos,
doesn't have any war stuff
fine.
in them, right? There's other examples if you go look at like the Mechanicum novel, where they have some examples of like souped up
But
female ogres.
They're
and shit.
gonna
There's
want
sorts
the
of-
models though. You know
But
they're gonna want
then-
the models.
then this is
Bro,
the
why
thing,
does he
right?
just
That they
want
do have
me?
models for is some of the Inquisitorius are gene enhanced themselves as well. So like. We already have examples in the lore of gene enhanced or are mechanically enhanced females that are on par, if not stronger than Space Marines in some categories. Like I would say, I would take Karina Greyfax over most Space Marines in a one-on-one, unless it's like maybe a named chapter master, right? Like, wouldn't you? Like, I mean, probably, right? Unless she was a
Radom,
museum,
you're
right?
muted. You're muted, Radom.
No, I think
maybe-
he's talking to his audience. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, like there are examples in lore that we
Yeah,
already
I just
have.
got a raid, so I muted myself.
Oh, no
Yeah.
problem.
No, and so no, I'm with you. I think though that so for instance, like the way that I would do it, I think that Custodes, I know you guys are saying that the progressives are not going to compromise. I heard you, I understand, I agree with you. I think no matter what, there's going to be some annoying progressives who are going to keep pushing and
At
pushing and pushing and pushing, no
Radham,
matter how
at
annoying or
Radham.
non-narrative it is, right? So that being said, if I was trying to solve this problem, I would leave female custodians where they are, because the truth is it's a couple of head swaps. Who gives a shit? Let them fucking have it, right? Then when it comes to trying to give them a power armored
Give it to
female
the
faction,
sisters.
I would do Primera Sisters. Oh, Call came up with this weird gene seed, whatever. Now they're faster, stronger, better, whatever. They're better than your average guardsman. And then what I would do is I would come out with tactical kits. So a lot of the complaints about the models are the fact that they're very religious. They have the fleur-de-lis. They have these huge, weird, spiky pauldrons. They all have
That's
white hair
fucking
and ugly
cool,
faces.
Connor.
I would have
That's why we
the
like
Age of
them.
Sigmar modeler do the faces, and then I would do.
I love that
tactical
AOS.
sister
Everybody
armor, and then
knows.
I would call it a day, and then I would tell the progressives to go fuck themselves.
Can I answer to the 2 points counterpoint made? Okay. Counterpoint made 2 points. One, less sexualized and less, church-themed Sisters of Battle, and the second, make super
Boo.
soldiers for the female factions too. Talking about the super soldiers, personally, I think having a faction of super soldiers when it comes to the female factions of the Imperium is a big mistake. Not from, from an inclusivity standpoint, but from a lore standpoint. For the simple fact that the Sisters of Silence and of Battle still are that badass, still can go side to side, toe to toe with Space Marines and Custodians, all the while being human. They are simple human. It is the best representation you can give when a woman only through sheer effort,
Yes.
no shortcuts,
Yes.
like the
I
Marines,
agree
like
with
the
this.
Custodians, can compete with those same people. Like the only
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That is actually a better way to do it if you want to. Well, hold on. It is the appropriate way to do it if you're trying to push like a progressive idea of like women being involved is to just say, well, they're they're badass on their own. And that is unironically what makes the guard, like, I used to be like shit hardcore on the guard, but having read The Fall of Cadia, I kind of like them. I kind of dig them. They're kind of cool. Like the idea that like when they talk about like Helska taking down an entire like group of heretic guardsmen or facing down a chaos space marine, like the idea, or guardsmen killing raptors on their own, or the sisters going toe to toe with fucking demon prince or Canthos, like that shit is awesome. And a big part of why it's awesome is because they're just normal people. Like this.
Good thing they have, like the Sisters of Silence, they are blanks. It is the only thing that makes them different from any other human. They don't have a soul, so they are anti-psychers. The Sisters of Silence, they pray a lot. They have a very strong faith, so they can make miracles. Those are already unique traits they have, but they're going ignored because Games Workshop doesn't give them enough attention to make people go, oh yeah, this faction, it is actually very cool. It is why I always push to have more models, more novels on them, or that have them involved, because they can be very interesting if well written. Just don't give them to Dan Abnett. He fucked up.
A heavy flamer. We need one of those.
And the second point about the church sisters and the sexualized sisters, there is actually an explanation. No hobby is for everyone. How the Helldivers creator said, a game for everyone is a game for no one. These sisters are church themed because they are the army of the church. They are battle nuns.
Yeah.
They will display those traits, and they will display them because it is their fate. If you don't like them as a faction and that stops you from playing, don't play. Find another game.
Yes.
Yeah, but then that
Yes,
pushes them into
yes.
bitching for female space
No.
marines. You gotta understand that they're gonna put their energy somewhere.
Hold on.
I think that Law has a good point here. There is something to be said that like if a setting doesn't appeal to you, that doesn't mean that you should try and bend it into something that does. That means you should continue looking for the universe or setting that appeals to you. And I hate that that is a 100% a wokey bullshit idea, is the idea that like every space should be accommodating for everyone. Fuck that. As long as a space isn't like openly like a setting isn't openly bigoted against like real world minorities or some shit like that, the reason that a variety of different things exist, different settings, different IPs, whatever, is so that everybody can find their little niche, right? You don't see me going into fucking Pokemon, like Pokemon with the little monsters, not the streamer. You don't see me going into Pokemon and going, yeah, if this would be way cooler if like Pikachu was like 6 feet tall and an AK-47 and wore combat armor, and Ash was like a 50-year-old like evil scientist. Like, no. The setting exists for a reason. It exists to appeal to a certain like demographic. It exists to fulfill a certain desire from a certain community. And just because you don't find yourself personally fulfilled by that desire doesn't mean that you get to change it to fit your desires.
Hold on.
My problem with your proposition is that it takes away the thematic identity.
Oh my god,
from
you
the
guys
sisters.
can't stay silent for 1 second while I
Well, you can
talk.
make them fanatic if you want.
Panel was a clusterfuck because people wouldn't shut the
However,
fuck up and let Whick
I wanna
moderate.
talk a little bit on this because while this isn't.
Wait a second. Can I finish my point for a second? Because there was another thing. The armor of the sisters is sexualized because the church can have only females under their banner as warriors. So they keep the armor very sexualized to show that the troops are female.
Gotcha. It's a gender expression. Anyway, let me kind of interject here because I have seen this play out before in a much more niche hobby that I used to be involved in. I used to play a lot of Gemstone. It's a text-based role-playing game. Not a lot of people played it. I played it for most of my life, actually. Came out in the AOL days.
Old man,
far back as 2021. It was still going strong, right? Thousands of players.
Love you, Whick.
I stopped playing, and one of the reasons I stopped playing is because of the changes to lore to make it more woke. One of the pieces of the lore in the story, right, was that the Dark Elves were people were prejudiced against them. They weren't allowed in certain cities. They would get overcharged. People always hated them and thought they were bad people. When I made a Dark Elf character, I knew that was true, and I knew that going in, and it was one of the reasons I wanted to roleplay the Dark Elf character. I can see very many...
What Whick is getting at here, by the way, all the wokies like to complain about how the lived experience of minorities should trump or takes precedence over the lived experience of like non-minorities. If you want to give like, cis whiteys like me a good idea of like what it's like to experience racism in your daily life, you should leave this shit in games, right? There's no there's no point to like. Well, it's not that there's no point. The point is to make it more inclusive. But by doing that, you're eliminating a possible avenue to educate people on something, on an issue that you find very personally fulfilling. We're gonna cut stream in like half an hour. I'm getting fucking tired. But I want to see if we can get through most of this.
Brotherhood, right? That has only men. That wants only to do with these things, right? That's why I chose Space Marines, right? That's why I played the Black Templar. That's why I played whatever faction I do, is because of how they are.
Oh, that might not have been him actually asking. I think Whick's a Necron player.
Riots, they made changes so that, actually racism was done away with in Gemstone World. And now Dark Elves could go anywhere. It
destroys this.
It takes away the reasons I played them in the first place. If I want to play a sexist motherfucking chapter who only accepts men and only men, right? That's part of the thing. If I wanted to play in a world, right, where if I wanted to play a woman who is discriminated against in a sexist society, I rolled that up because of that, right? And when you take that away, what you do is you take away people's reasons that they started.
And you take away an avenue for them to experience that real life. Yeah.
That I push back against this inclusivity thing is because it does drive away people who have spent, thousands of dollars on their armies, knowing that the lore was a certain way, and hey, they kind of liked it that way. Why are you changing it? Go ahead.
There is a little point here too, because you never see that inclusivity. Like, you don't see anybody wanting female orcs. You know what I'm saying? It is for whatever. It's female space marines. It's female custodies. But there aren't any female orcs.
Are agender.
Yeah, I think that orcs.
But I'm just saying,
they don't have a gender.
That's okay.
He's saying that you don't see the frenetic passion to change with it.
Yeah.
Also, as I said earlier, most people in 40K could be considered agender in pragmatic terms because, again, all we care about is whether or not you can hold a gun. In Cadia, in the Fall of Cadia, there's a character who, who has a deformity. Like, his fingers are fused together. And it was said that he would be completely fucking useless because the Militarum couldn't use him because he couldn't pull the trigger of a las rifle. So instead, they just removed the trigger guard, and he's now, hyper badass, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, there's not... There is some legitimacy to this point. I don't like the shutting it down. The dismissive, I'm painting my model, I'm just going to shut you down from a distance. Again, I could just be the British accent, but fuck me. Everything that Radham has said since, the midpoint of this just comes across as so condescending.
I think the reason why is actually fairly obvious. It's because it's the poster faction. That's why.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's where I was leading to, but
yeah, but you see, insert females in male spaces, but never insert males in female spaces.
Yeah, but I kind of want to do that sarcastically.
I'll be back in a moment.
Literally, if I had just crazy time and money, I would absolutely try to change the Hallmark channel into a action channel, 100%.
That'd be hilarious.
You guys want to change all our shit? Okay, guess what? We're coming for weird fucking female spaces. We're gonna turn every reality.
I love the idea. I love the idea that Counterpoints considers the Hallmark channel a female space. Let's be honest. If the Hallmark channel still exists, it probably is. But I love that. That's his go-to example. Connor, I love you, and I'm ready to join your Militarum.
So here's one of the things.
Send me my heavy flamer. I'm ready.
In the poster child of the franchise, but perhaps
I guess a
better way to
flamer.
do that was simply make Imperial Guard the poster child. Or another thing, there's nothing wrong with female Imperial Guard, and that's been the case for quite a while, right? Just showcase that instead. Just make that, and that also gives a benefit of
but
people
8-foot tall demigods of war. 8-foot tall demigods of war are always going to sell the most. Always.
Yeah.
But it's a male power fantasy.
Hooking the young people in early.
Well, I don't know about that. I think it's a chicken and egg stage. Again, I have two armies, Black Templar and
there he goes.
Dark Eldar, or Drukari as they call them now. I have a couple fantasy armies as well. I have Tomb Kings and I have Chaos. I understand that the only reason I got Space Marines when I was a kid, 16, is because that's what they pushed on me. It wasn't something I chose because I want this, right? Even though I did.
Can I address this real quick?
If I may finish, once I finish, yes. So this idea that it's always going to sell the most because it's a male power fantasy, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that the reason it's like a chicken and the egg thing. I think that they push it because it sells the most, but it sells most because they push it. If they gave that same attention to the other factions, to the Dark Eldar, to the Imperial Guard, if they give it to the Tyranids, if they give it to all these other factions, I think we would see a boost in sales, and it would be better for the game overall. I want to see better. When's the last time they updated Drukhari rules? Honestly.
Sure. So let me address this real quick.
20 years old.
Okay, I want to make this point. So here's the thing. I think you and I and everybody who's in content creation we're slave to the algorithm like anybody else. And the truth is the algorithm.
Speak for yourself, bitch. I don't even make it into the algorithm.
Oh,
I silenced him with the power of Christ.
What about now?
You're back.
Okay, you're back.
You just froze for a moment.
Okay, so hold on.
You've been replaced by a warp
saying
demon.
the algorithm when you froze.
Yeah, so the algorithm, it rewards us for certain styles of content, and as a result, we are incentivized to do that style of content over and over and over again. And I guarantee you the reason why GW releases Primaris Lieutenants isn't just to fuck with us, it's because people have such a appetite for Space Marine models that they will buy custom models in different poses with different war gear just to buy it.
True.
So I don't fully
I'm
buy
so
into this.
guilty.
Also, but here's like the argument that I think that has worked
I'm so
best in progressive
guilty
space.
of that one, even as a Chaos player. The amount of times I've looked at the Librarian and Phobos armor and been like, fuck, I need to figure out a way to use that in Chaos somehow, do a conversion somehow. It's so true.
Is I appeal to their sense of like safe spaces, where I say men need a safe space. They need a place to tell male-oriented stories where violence is acceptable, where hypermasculinity is acceptable, where they can be completely asexual and focused on war. Like
Connor, hypermasculinity is bad. You gotta demonize that.
The Warhammer hobby itself should be a male safe space.
Yeah.
Yes. Not the
no.
entire hobby, but I think Space Marine should be, absolutely.
I think
to make this point, actually,
I think at no point did Counter make the insinuation that for everything I sounded like he was talking about the lore, right? Like, and it's fine if women want to come in and enjoy that, and there are plenty of women who do, but like, I think it's fine for the lore to be more catered towards or more tailored towards like a male power fantasy.
Continue this trend. Why is it a problem that it is a male-dominated hobby exactly? Because all of these changes, all this inclusivity, all
that is a
this
good
pushing
question.
for female Marines, female Primarchs, female Custodians, it all comes down to we want to attract more people to play the game. We want to attract women, we want to attract queer people, so
because of money, dude.
Let it be how narcissistic and fucking assholeic they are. But my main point is, why is it a problem that the large majority of the hobby is males? Why was it ever a problem? It is a game made for males. It is an hyper-masculine fantasy of a universe at war. Men like fantasy war because nobody likes real war unless they are studying it. But why should it be a problem? Why would it ever be a problem? The only reason people are trying to be inclusive is to include more people that have no interest in 40k to begin with. If they had any interest, they will go other than, Space Marines all males that problem.
Contain yourself, Radhon.
So there are a lot of women who have had interest in playing Warhammer or Warhammer 40k, walked into a games shop, and then got treated really fucking sexist in really sexist ways by staff and hunters, and then walked out. Some of them then later
not for nothing, but I'm pretty sure we already addressed this point earlier. I have no doubt that this has happened in the past, but I have never witnessed all the time I was a Magic player and all the time I was a Warhammer player, and it could just be where I live, but like fuck me, I've never seen any of that shit where you just have. In fact, I've seen the Warhammer guys, and I've got beef with the people that play Warhammer there at my LGS, but like, I've seen fucking them bend over backwards to teach women that come in and are interested in the game. Like, this is just he's saying there are a lot of women. Could we get some actual like can you show me anything to back that up besides you like spewing out your mouth garbage?
Back into it. You can find a lot of cases of this. GW has gotten a lot better with making sure that their staff are, helpful to women who come in.
Can you give us an
shop.
example of that?
Thank you, Wick. Yes, please.
An example of that?
Sure,
Yeah,
of a woman going in and getting by GW staff.
I actually have one of the managers at my GW store when I was doing my little back work for this said, quite frequently when people come in there with their like girlfriends with their boyfriends, like boyfriends trying to get their girlfriends into the tabletop, right? And they'll sit there and of course, like let's just say they are space marines, right? And they'll sit there and they'll start beginning to tell them the lore. Well, this is a man only faction about this. There's only guys here. But hey, if you're a girl, here's the Sisters of Battles, right? But guess what? What's marketed to us and what's the cool thing?
Except for girls don't have to just play the Sisters of Battle. They can just play Space Marines. Like, if a girl likes the idea of the Space Marines or likes Chaos or likes Demons or whatever the fuck, they can just play those. Like, I think that part of you're blaming the fact that, like, women are disgruntled by being pushed onto Sisters of Battle. Maybe just don't push the women onto the women faction. Maybe that's way too elementary and juvenile to, like, look at this and try and solve this issue.
You know, even on the bag, I think I got one right here. On the bag, it's marketed to you got the cool fucking Primaris fucking Space Marine right there. You don't see the Sister of Battle.
Warhammer store just a GW store just opened near me. I need to go.
Titus right here. You see Titus. You know,
Night
Titus. Trailer was shot the way that it was shot.
Yeah, but that's why the girls get discouraged, right? But like, well, I want to play the guy in the blue, not this sister over here, and you know. The weird looking armor. Let's be honest. I hate the helmets.
Is this just a me thing? But
Yeah.
I've never started up a video game and says, "Oh, I can't be a guy in this video game. I'm gonna turn it off."
it's
Right?
like-
Like I've
I
never
have.
done
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, it seems like a
I'm not
made-up
86
problem.
because it's women.
Yeah, what?
I don't
maybe
make
it's just-
female characters. All my characters are male. I like to
Lame,
play
boo.
and
You ever played
no
Tomb
offense,
Raider?
there absolutely
Losers.
is like this thing where, no offense to everybody progressive or whatever, but there's something where like gender bending seems to just be like, I want to be able to gender bend in everything. And I
Yeah.
swear to God, that's like half the fucking motivation.
Like,
is
I
they
have
wanna
nothing
gender
wrong-
Hold
bend
on, but hold on.
in my
we were
hyper
talking-
masculine hobby.
Yeah, we were talking. Sorry, this is my fault. I distracted. But we were talking about GW staff being prejudiced or sexist against women who are trying to enter the hobby, and I'm curious for specific examples on that.
No, I haven't seen it any. Like I said, no GW staff has been there. The place here in Portland, Oregon, like I told Pontiac, it's a
See, Radham
great
won't
place.
dare
All
overtalk
three
the
of them
black
workers-
guy.
Okay, that's great. You don't have an example.
But
Does
the
anyone have it?
Italian dude he disagrees with, he'll interrupt him
I
whenever
think
he
we can-
wants.
The reason why you don't see a lot of pushback about it is because I'm assuming.
Also,
in
where's
the
your
80s
example,
and the 90s,
Radham?
There was women who showed up to the gaming stores. Gaming stores were and comic stores were primarily for dudes, and there was like, you know how you know, girls will wear band shirts and then a dude will walk up and be like, name the top 3 songs of the band. Everybody has that anecdote. Like, we all just kind of vaguely know that probably happened.
See, that's what I
we
was
just-
saying. Yeah. Like, I believe it happened, but, like, can we substantiate it?
I've put an article in the group chat
Let
of
me know.
someone relaying their experiences first trying to get into Warhammer in 2015, with a negative experience with a Warhammer staffer who treated them very dismissively and flippantly and obviously wanted them to leave.
Okay, we have one example of one person being treated poorly by one Games Workshop staff member. Therefore, this is a systemic issue. Fuck, I hate fucking left wokies.
And then a positive experience that they had in 2023 after the policy changes came through, which is when they managed to actually get into the hobby because
But
they weren't getting kept.
were those policy changes the result of their positive, or like, was their positive experience a direct result of those policy changes, or did those policy changes just coincide with their more? Maybe that one employee got fired, right? Like the idea, oh, well, we put in our DEI inclusion wokeism BS, and now look, girls like us now. Like, there's no greater analysis given to any of this, which, like, it's a fucking board game. I don't imagine that any of these guys, except for, I know Counterpoints, Whick, Gibbs, these guys are pretty thoughtful dudes. I don't personally know anybody else on this panel, but, like, fuck me. I don't expect them to, like, give it, you know, be the fucking super geniuses when it comes to, like, analyzing this shit on, like, a level beyond it. Like, it's hard to, like, take a topic like this so seriously that you're actually analyzing it in a serious way. Like, I get that. But we can't just, like, just because that's the case doesn't mean that we can make stupid conclusions as a result of it.
By a staffer.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
that
you.
is
I'll
not
look that
being-
over.
No. Wait a second. That is not being gate-kept. That is pretty much a low-wage worker because, let's be real, it is not a nuclear plant. It is a Games Workshop shop. You still have thousands and thousands of dollars of merch of overpriced plastic. But yeah, I will rob it if I had the chance. But but anyway,
Don't
the
do
point
that.
is, then
Law, not
it
a
is
lawyer.
problem
Don't
not
do
of
that.
lore, but of approach of the people inside. This manager of Games Workshop could have just been a low-wage worker working, being stressed, and having his own problems. He could have been rude to every client. We will never know. We only know one perspective.
So
but even
these kinds of stories are relatively common. I know
Common
a
how?
number
You are
of
the only
women
one
who
that
have
He is asserting that with zero evidence. He has provided one example, and he's asserting that it is a common experience without anything to back it up besides his fifis.
these experiences in the past.
You bring up a 10-year-old example, like how relevant.
Yeah, that is a good
The
point. 15,
policy
that was a
and thus
long
the
time ago.
Culture has changed.
Yeah,
in
I mean,
that
culture,
time,
culture
and that's a
worldwide
good
has
thing.
changed. Like, yeah, culture worldwide has become like being a nerd is cool. I definitely remember,
True.
Like, I don't attribute that to the Warhammer community.
I don't even
or
attribute that to
GW community
wokeism.
culture change. That's a worldwide change.
Yeah.
Like, back like 10, 15 years ago.
Actually, you know what I attribute it to? Marvel. Marvel made being a nerd cool. Unironically. I remember being made fun of in school for being into Star Wars. This is recent.
Proliferation of video game and nerd culture has been huge in the past 20 years.
Yeah, big time. That's because we got all the cool shit.
I want to touch on what Wick said as well. Hold on one second. So Wick brought this up earlier. You brought up you played Drukhari, right? I agree. There's so many factions that I think could even get an army, right? That we don't have. How awesome would be like a sloth army or Rangdon like army or something. You know, it's all about how they do the marketing.
About the rest of the Tau.
Make these factions various things throughout, like whatever, feminized, not feminized, however, all sorts of different ways you can take these, right? But there's so many models we don't already have. For us to like do this Femstones thing is just such a slap in the face. Like, some models need redos. Like Huron Blackheart desperately needs a remake, right?
I know Gibbs is a Corsairs player.
I don't remember, but he definitely doesn't have a novel dedicated to him directly. Like, there's all sorts of characters everybody's asking for. And they're giving us something that only a small minority that wants to blow the hobby up are asking.
I'm sorry.
Okay. This is where I am going to push back on the chuds a little bit, and I'm going to say you need to stop considering every change that you don't like as in directed intention with the motivation to destroy your enjoyment of the hobby. Maybe people are just trying to do things that they think might help themselves enjoy the hobby more, and maybe if you acknowledge that, you can actually start to have a conversation about how to meet in the middle so you're both satisfied.
With a petulant, if I can't have this exactly the way I want, then I'm going to do everything I can to destroy
the law
hobby.
saying that is pretty yikes.
I will. You are on the side that all the people that simply go, oh yes, there is not female space marines, bigots, Nazis, fascists. Don't make me laugh, Radom. Don't play this game. I can play it a lot better than you can.
I also I think Aponius hit on this earlier with this high and mighty morality.
The second the law dips into any of that while we're talking, we're done.
Right? And I see this all the time. Like when we look at politics in general, I'll be watching online, and bro, I'm so glad that I'm not a dim, because if I was a dim, my side would be chewing me up and spitting me out. Like every day, there's the wildest, meanest, most vicious people are leaning on the left, and that's the same thing that's happening here. They're like, we're coming into this hobby, it's your thing that you enjoy, and we're purposely going to try to change things for the sake of wokeness, without the lore, just
people
to spit
on
on
the left have always been here in this hobby, mate.
Yeah, but woke people have inserted themselves forcefully in an hobby that is not them, like gene stealers waiting for
is just a current. It is the current term for a long-standing conservative bugbear, going back through fucking SJWs.
Not true.
Politically correct. It's just the latest term for the same bit of fear mongering.
That's why I brought up Star Wars earlier, because Star Wars is always leave left.
No.
Okay, thank you for the gift subs, Najin. I want to hold on. I want to
Yikers! Everybody calm down.
Gibbs is passionate about this and Glaw is passionate about this. I want to give them both time. But if they try to go at the same time, I can't hear either of them. So we're gonna go Gibbs first, and then we're gonna go to Glaw.
I'm almost
go ahead,
done.
and then we're gonna let Majin
Yikers,
and
kiddos.
Radham respond to it. And counterpoints, you can just weigh in whenever. But go ahead, Gibbs.
I know Clara was saying. I actually really disagree with this that Radham was talking about. Right? When I go and look at something like Star Wars, which is already very left, Like we look at the rebellion was a left-leaning take on the American evil empire, right? Versus the Vietnam. That's why you haven't even had the Ewoks. George Lucas throughout is like even the prequels are like a talk about like corporatism taking over America, right? And like there's all these underlying leftist themes.
No, the prequels are about the Bush administration pretty overtly. Like there's lines by Sidious that are like direct parallels to things that George Bush said while he was president. So no.
And I love Star Wars. As a conservative, I love Star Wars. It was my favorite thing in the world. And now it's way down the list. And I like barely ever go get stuff in Star Wars anymore. When I was spending thousands and thousands of dollars on this every year, right, to get this stuff. I go to conventions. We do characters. I had a Star Wars wedding. I'm obsessed. Now I can't tell you last time I was excited to buy something for this because people went in there and instead of like
his recent Star Wars sucks.
People have always been there. Star Wars is even more left than Warhammer's always been, right? And so when I see someone go, oh, this is just conservatives throwing a namby-pamby, you're touching our stuff. No, it's the style of it. We're being woke for the sake of being woke to spit in your eye. That's the problem.
Okay, Glaw.
See, that's what I don't like. I don't like the idea that it's just done as spite. I don't think that's true.
To cite why the argument of Radom is an outright lie, I will not even say it's wrong, it is a conscious lie. I will just cite some of the experience that have happened after the creation or the retcon of the female custodians. I have been sent dozens of threads on Twitter of women being against it, going against Games Workshop for it.
That is true.
Why have we done this? We have already female factions. We don't want pandering. We don't want cheap representation. We want meaningful characters that are on accordance with the story. The left, the woke, the gene stealers, how you want to call them, whatever name you want to use for this fucking narcissistic bunch, have eaten them alive. There were women getting death threats. There were women harassed in real life because of it. Even from people that Radom knows. Bitshammer was in the middle of it. Cerberus was in the middle of it. Shay was in the middle of it. Shay is renowned for being a leftist, being one of the good guys, and yet he goes around doxing people because he doesn't agree with them.
Let's not misgender her. She.
I don't give a single flying fuck about your culture on gender. I don't give a fuck about how a person that I don't know and I don't care about feels, and you should get used to that.
I am going to correct him every time he does that, and if he gets triggered, I'll let him but like, this is a social cohesion thing. If you want your point to like resonate with the wokies, you have to meet them in the middle on some of this shit. If Shay wants to be called she, if Shay is a chick, then Shay's a chick. You know what I mean? I don't fucking, this is dumb.
Oh, poor
just use her pronouns, mate.
No, I will not. Poor fucking feelings of a person that is not here. Fuck him. Anyway, the point I'm trying to
I don't even know if Whick knows who they're talking about.
Fuck this trans person, I'm misgendering them.
Fuck this person in particular, because I don't know it, I don't care. I don't know. I don't care. I don't have to care.
The other thing is, like, the other thing is, and I've had this argument with, like, Hakan on Twitter and my buddy Raptor on Twitter with regards to the trans stuff. I just don't think the level of acceptance is at the same level that it is in more Western, like, or more Western, rather, like, basically the UK and the US. I don't think that everybody else is quite there with the trans stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so you can't. I don't know what the point of condemning it, like halting the conversation to have this little tiff. I don't know what the point is. Like, this is Glaw's biggest fault in this conversation, is that it's very clear that he has some beef with Radham, but Radham also can't be like, you know, the bigger man and just like ignore it and go, we need to just have the conversation, right? Like,
hate the person in this case, not because they are trans, but because they are an asshole. So I don't have to respect.
So call them an asshole while using their proper pronouns.
See, yes, I do agree with that.
All day about it. I will not. Anyway.
Oh, I'm not crying.
Hold on, let
shut up, Rad.
And then we can respond.
Yeah,
to that
piece it apart.
Yeah.
Thanks for derailing the whole conversation.
This is not the kind of approach you have from people that are here in a friendly manner. This is the kind of approach you have from assholes, the same gatekeepers that they are always complaining about, the big guts, the people that hate everybody. I don't hate anyone. As long as you enjoy 40k, I will have you as my friend. I don't care if you're a transgender, I don't care if you are black, if you are white. white, if you are Asian, whatever. As long as you respect 40K, we are brothers. When
My
you are
They're
battle
not
pass.
Canadian, but go on.
Yeah, fuck Canadians.
When you are an asshole like Shay,
Amen.
you don't even deserve the spit I will throw on your
I made
face for
a
what you do.
Fuentes
Just
meme
because
on demand for
somebody
Whick.
disagrees with you and you go and dox them,
Just to
and
say
then
fuck
complain not
Canadians.
even weeks later that you get doxed in return because somebody doxed him too.
I'm sorry that you are super salty about shit on Twitter, but that's not what we're here to debate.
Finally!
No, in fact, we are here to debate how your
Except,
side
see,
made
this is
of
the
four
thing, is
fucking
like,
assholes
he's
that-
saying that way too late. He already engaged in the shit slinging, and now he's trying to be like the moral, like, grandstander. But, like, you dipshit, you already engaged in it too.
that devour hobbies. Sorry for that. I forgot. The
No,
scope
I'm
of the
sorry,
argument.
again, that's not what we're here to debate.
I mean, that's a little bit of what we're debating. Is
Yeah, a
that
little
is
bit.
what we're debating.
We're,
What is
we're,
enough?
we're not here. We're not here to litigate his problem with people on Twitter who aren't even me.
Okay,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
fair,
because
but there's
you
still,
call me
but there's still,
fascist on
there's still
Twitter, remember?
representation.
Okay,
I
so
want to do this.
I'm gonna throw a flag here because I don't know this specific situation.
All
But I
right,
do
yeah.
think
Wick
it's
doesn't even
relevant
know
to
who
talk
Shay
about the
is. Shay
behavior
blocked me, by the way,
of the
for,
fan
like,
base
making fun of
both
them for saying the
sides
horse
here
heresy
in a
didn't
more
matter,
general
but...
sense, because that is who is responding to these changes and who the changes are either meant for or meant to tell, as you said in your words, Red Hom, the chuds to fuck off. So I think how people respond to that is fair game to talk about. So yeah, go ahead.
Even
Are you
to,
done?
like, what
First,
Connor
I
was
want to make
saying.
sure
Yeah,
that
I'd
wanna
like
make-
to address
Hold
that.
on, I want to make sure that Glaw's done, and if he is, then I want to pass it to Majin
just-
and Radhom to respond. Then I will let counterpoints get in on it. Sound
Yeah,
good?
Let me
Just
get in
one
for the Radhom because I know he's gonna hit this out
Yeah,
of the park.
Go ahead,
no, no,
but
and
make sure
ultimately,
Glaw
I know-
finish. Glaw finish.
Don't
Pressure's
fillet
on.
the dude. He's
Yeah,
already got too big of an
I have
ego.
Just one single more observation to make. The leftist side, the woke side, is always the same one that says we are not gatekeepers, but if you don't agree with us, fuck off from the hobby. You are not angry at the chat
True.
gatekeepers. You are angry that you are
True.
the one making the gatekeeping. You are not the one doing it, and you are angry about that. The moment a new gate is erected, you will be the gatekeepers. Oh, you don't like female custodians, you
True.
don't like female space marines? Out, Chad. Fuck off. I am here saying respect the lore. I will like you. You are there saying, oh yeah, you don't want
Well,
this kind of change in the
Now
lore.
you're
Fuck off.
arguing against the law, though. The law
So-
has changed.
The lore has been
40K
retconned.
law
has not
change is
changed.
constant.
It has been retconned to appease the
A
tyrannies
retcon
that
is
are
a
your
category
side.
of change.
Yes,
So-
a shitty change that I'm trying to get reverted.
Okay,
to bring
$10.
Okay.
$10 from Wheezy Pillar to say
Ch-
glad
Chutters, I'm so sorry. It's never getting reverted. I don't think they go back on lore changes, all right? Especially with how controversial this one is. I think they wouldn't have made it unless they were planning on sticking to it. So, like, you guys need to let it go, all right? Pick the next battlefield.
I sat this one out. LOL.
Or don't. Or just pick no battlefield. That'd be
I do want to
preferred.
let Radhom, the Majin respond, and Counterpoints has something to add too.
No, no.
So
Margin, you go first because you were
So,
ready
yeah,
with
yeah.
some points.
So ultimately, just one real quick. Again, to what Connor was saying, this is not the canary going crazy, and the one or two female custodians can be explained by the lore. It's just one insert to be like, yeah, there was an outlier, right? This woman was that person back in the day where gender didn't matter. Where we have it, it's not that big of a deal. I do understand like the whole like fear because I've seen it happen to Marvel. I've seen it happen to things where we have like other hobbies of mine where there is. Like they don't acknowledge like the wokeism that is already there when we're talking about powerful like there's no powerful black mutants or superheroes like Storm hasn't existed forever who checks off both the female and the black she's always been
Yeah,
just
I mean,
don't-
I hate to vindicate. Well, I don't really necessarily hate to vindicate the chuds on this one. I feel like there is a lot of tourism going on from the wokies, or rather, when they say tourism, what they mean is you're coming into this not because you appreciate it, but because you tangentially appreciate a part of it, and then you're coming in trying to remold it into something you can wholly appreciate. If you don't wholly appreciate it or you don't wholly like it, move the fuck on, or just be content with the part you do like. Like, I actually agree with that a lot.
or stuff like that. We always want to think like
You should
20-year-olds
know,
wanna
like,
believe their idea of woke has been the first ones in air.
before you basically what I'm trying to say is before you start complaining that there's a lack of representation, why don't you examine the representation that's actually there already? And I feel like so often the sisters are hand waved as, oh well, whatever. I mean, that's the one that everybody says, and it's like, well, yeah, because they're badass.
last 30 years, and it's just not true. I do want to keep the lore nice and tight. Nobody likes a bad story being told. We have watched like TV shows over the last 2 years actually get crushed because they went down this wokeism with Cowboy Bebop. Nobody likes Cowboy Bebop. Everybody thought Cowboy Bebop was dog shit, the Netflix adaptation. So I understand why we have these concerns.
Oh wait, I
right?
can't do
Why
that.
we
I'm gonna get
don't wanna
copyright
see
claimed.
it go like Gibbs has been saying it till he's blue in the face. Star Wars, right? But on the other end,
Never
this
seen
right
Cowboy
here
Bebop.
with the
I just
Fem
like the theme
Stoats, not
song.
a big deal. It's a nothing burger. Nobody.
Yeah,
It
my
can't be
favorite
explained in the lore.
phrase.
And hell, like I said, if we wanted to make female Space
Nothing
Marines, even though
burger.
I'm not really on board with it,
Two buns.
but it could be written good. We have the Primaris project, which would allow that to happen because Burler's Claw and Gilliman are heretics. They're big heretics. They're all for it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I want to make.
He is
I want to pass the ball to Radham then to counterpoints because counterpoints been trying to get in here too.
Yep. So there's a general point I want to address here. This idea of, I guess it can be summed up as go woke, go broke. This just isn't true. Good and bad media can be made for, like, the things that make media good or bad aren't the absence or presence of progressive themes. Bad corporate decision making.
That is true, as I said at the beginning, although I do want to point out, I'm pretty sure Bud Light stock did suffer after the Dylan Mulvaney beer thing, and I'm pretty sure that Star Wars has not been nearly as profitable as it has been historically. So there is some legitimacy to the idea that, like, cramming down, like, woke ideology or, like, shoving it right in the face of your audience can have negative effects, right? I can excuse a lot of it, at least when it comes to like fictional stuff on like writing, but like when it comes to like the Bud Light thing, I mean, they were taking a massive shit on a lot of people who drank their fucking beer. You know what I mean? Like,
is often involved in making bad media, and bad corporate decision making can also involve attempting like weak pandering characters.
true. So that would be like the Bud Light thing, I would say, was kind of a weak pandering, but it was really direct.
Woke adaptations that have been
my small
very
bacon.
fucking successful. The new Fallout series, the
Fallout's great. Go watch it.
Fallout was good.
Amazing pirate
Was
anime.
Fallout woke?
Yeah, Fallout wasn't woke.
It had
I
a
think
female
Fallout was
protagonist.
It had
A female
elements.
protagonist.
Fallout is super woke. The main protagonist is a fucking woman. Her love interest is a black guy. Like, it's anti-corporate. It is exactly the kind of thing that will get labeled as woke by the conservatives. But do you see how they're not doing it? And the reason they're not doing it is because it was well written. So this is the thing, is like, it is technically woke. And I do think that they would take more issue with it if it was poorly written. But if you write something well with progressive or woke elements, nobody has an issue with it.
Protagonist
doesn't
is
mean
a
it's
black
woke.
romantic lead.
I don't want to
Do
distract.
you
But I
see-
don't want to distract. But I get you. Go ahead.
People on the right-wing commentariat were decrying Fallout as woke, and then it got released and it was good, so they've backpedaled that it is no longer, that it is not woke, that
You
it was
think
never
Alien
woke.
is woke? You think
Woke
Alien is
just
woke?
means
Alien would be
If it
called
came out
woke if
today,
it came
it would
out
be
today.
decried as
Yeah,
woke.
100%.
No, it wouldn't. Not really.
yes, it would. I have seen.
So just
Can you tell me why all of these very capable men get killed by this hyper-fast, hyper-intelligent alien predator, but a random woman is able to survive? Like, 100%. You can see that, you can hear the quartering script right now.
The right-wing
just for
commentariat freaks the
my
fuck out about.
just for my edification, then to ask this directly to Gibbs.
Look,
and
there are
Law.
so many super
I'm
mutants
sorry,
over here.
Counter. I know we're gonna get you in. I promise, but I'm just curious. So, what would your definite? Why is this woke and why wasn't Fallout woke? I guess just so I can get a definition, so I know what we're talking about.
So it's the level, like the issue. So okay, when I say woke, right, I'm gonna use like a comparison. I think a comparison is the best way for me to do this, right? In Star Wars, there's a character named Moff Disro, right? In the expanding universe. This is pre-Star Wars, before I say it went woke with Disney, right? One of his characteristics, he was gay, right? But he wasn't like flamboyantly gay. Nobody knew he was gay until you showed up at his house one day for this dinner, and his husband comes out. It was just an aspect.
God,
of his
Gibbs, by the way, is a
character. He was
real
very
Star Wars fan.
well-written
I have no
character,
idea who the
and,
fuck
like, he
he's talking
was
about,
a
and
main
I was a
character
deep
was fun.
lore guy.
That's progressive. That's not wokeism, right? Progressive, like wokeism would come in here, would be like, oh, well, we're gonna shoe in this relationship with these two characters that don't make any sense at all, and we're gonna make them gay, and we're gonna just do it, and we're gonna put it as the front and center.
Yeah,
We're gonna
now
have
watch where
alien
the
dick sucking
conversation
scene.
goes.
Yeah, or we're gonna have a person that uses 14 different pronouns is literally a character take over a superstar destroyer with an insectoid army of some kind out of nowhere for one chapter, just to shove it in your face because that makes sense in the context of showing the greater galaxy. And it's literally an expert in a book about that has nothing to do with this. It's a like 20-page thing, just sidetrack. That's wokeism, right? This Femstos thing is wokeism. They're going in there and doing this for needless pandering for something that's
So wokeism is when
is bad
progressive
writing.
components
It's
and
bad
bad
writing.
storytelling. That's what you've said. Wokeism is
No,
when
not
progressive
really.
elements and bad storytelling. If it has good storytelling but not progressive elements, it's not woke. That's
But
what
it's
I'm
also-
saying.
it's also
This
within the respectability of
wokeness
the
isn't
lore.
what's
No,
destroying
there's a
things.
difference.
It's
what
bad
makes-
storytelling
what
and bad
makes
media
sense?
creation.
Let him
No, that's not,
finish.
no, that's
please,
one.
please.
Okay, all right. I'll differentiate here. One more. So, like another woke thing, woke movie we talk about wokeness is The Last Jedi, and the reason why they do that is because he takes established lore and flips this on its head.
See,
for
this
the
is what I mean
sake
about woke
of
having
you
like a
could
really
argue it's bad
nebulous,
storytelling.
almost
But what my
meaningless
point is, the
definition
big
for
kicker
thing I
is
don't
they're doing
like.
it just for the
Exactly
sake
what
of,
I'm
like,
talking
flipping off the
about.
judge,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, which is it is bad storytelling, but it's that third level of hey, we're doing this just for the sake of it. Go fuck yourself. That's the third factor. So it's both the ones you
The
mentioned.
Last Jedi
And-
was the best film since the original trilogy.
God, I hate him so much.
I hate that
Okay,
statement,
I
but
know
fine.
it's supposed to be.
I want to have him on my
it's supposed to be
stream just to
neutral
yell at him for
moderator,
that
but
take.
Let's give the mic.
That
to-
was
let's give the
incredibly
mic to
stupid,
Guava
and he
and,
did just say that just to piss them
same
off. There's
answer,
no way
Guava?
he can genuinely believe
No,
that.
I have a more
What's your
elaborate
Wait, did he say the
difference? I'm gonna go to
prequels?
counterpoints
All
right
right, he
there.
might have meant that.
Glock, go ahead.
The concept of woke.
I'm not gonna
is
rewind
not
it because I gotta get through
concept
this,
of
but I'm pretty sure that he said prequels in that case.
Progressivism
Obvious
don't
he's
actually
shitposting.
describe what a woke kind of writing and a woke kind of message are in a story. I have seen people call woke One Piece, for example, and I'm like, what the fuck are you guys watching? What the fuck are you guys reading? The concept of woke is not something like bad writing united to liberal points or in any case nothing that is conservative. The main problem of woke is that it hits you in the head with a sledgehammer of a message without justification or voice in the matter. Same thing we have seen with the female custodians. We could have had a novel that explained how
Again, you've supported my point.
Hold on,
Woke
let
is
him
progressive
finish.
elements.
Let
Nope,
him
he
finish.
can't do it. He
Let
can't.
him
He can't.
finish.
His British,
Let him finish,
his
yes.
British
Then we'll get to it. I
proclivities
promise.
force him to
We have
believe
seen-
that
we have seen
his
this with
opinions are
female
more important than
custodians.
everybody
The
else's,
entire
even though they're
codex
not, and they're the
calls the
least
custodians
important because they're
always
not
with male
American.
pronouns, except the page where the story of the two female custodians is explained during the Blood Games. Why is this there? The entire codex doesn't acknowledge it as canon. The entire codex doesn't know how the fuck it is there because it is always addressing them not with gender-neutral pronouns but with male pronouns. And instead of getting a story of how this woman struggled, made their way through the selection process, the training, how they were born, why, where they come from, instead of getting their motivation and their struggles, the good story that could be behind it, we just get the final message. Now custodians are even female. That
You're
is the end
proving
of it.
Radhome's point.
No.
You
I'm not
are.
Adam's point for a single reason. This change he made to appease the very loud minority of the progressive Gene Stealers cult. It is not a change made because they want to be inclusive, because they find that the universe lacks characters or inclusivity or diversity. It is a change made because a very, very loud narcissistic minority is on Twitter accusing them of bigotry constantly because they don't make those changes. So the company doesn't like bad
The
publicity.
writers
They
wanted to
caves.
do this since at least 2016.
And they didn't.
writer.
It doesn't hold any kind
What
of
is the
value if they
reason? I
didn't.
would be
There
curious to
was
ask
no
him
law
why
in
they didn't end up
2016.
doing
If they had
that.
done it then, nobody would have had a fucking problem with it. They have done it now.
That's not
People have problem
true.
with it because
People
it
would have
goes
had a
against
problem with it.
established
People
canon.
bitched
And
about
to go back
Primaris.
to the example of Alien wouldn't be considered woke
Again,
today. No, wait a second.
established
Stop
canon in
interrupting him,
MDK
Rad.
is a
This
very
is so
messy thing.
ridiculous.
I understand that
You've
he's a
gotta
little
let him
long-winded. We gotta
finish.
let Glock finish, and we gotta let the counterpoints go.
It's so
the
rude.
thing about the example that was made with Alien wouldn't be considered woke today for a simple fact. The woman
Because
in
it's
the
a good
story,
film.
other than that, the woman in the story is not represented as an overpowered,
Yeah,
bitchy, bossy
I mean, so as
woman.
much as I do believe that there would be like 100% like a dumbass quartering video on like this is why Alien is super woke. Ripley being successful has literally nothing to do with her being a woman. She is just consistent. First of all, there's another woman who gets killed in that movie, who's part of that like trucking group. Ripley is the only one who's consistently like being cautious, being intelligent throughout the entire fucking movie. When the guy gets a face hugger on his face, she's like, "Fuck no, we're not bringing him on the ship. You get the fuck out of here. You're staying on the fucking planet." And the captain is the one, Dallas or whatever, is the one who makes her bring the guy on board. So like, it is actually within Ripley's character to be like intelligent and shit. I do think Law has a point here. Like, the problem is that, like, again, woke doesn't have an actual definition. Everybody operates off of their own definition, and because of that, we can never have a conversation about whether or not woke in whatever is good or bad, because nobody knows what anybody else is talking about.
Made there only for token point with the deep story of a paddle just put there to be good at everything and best at everything, because if
Like,
they even have a
imagine an Alien where everybody is going, "Oh, Ripley, you don't know what you're talking about, you dumb woman," where she's the only woman on the crew. "You don't know what you're talking about, you're just a woman, let the men do the work, blah blah blah," and then she's the last one to survive. That would be like way more overtly in this, like, at least from what Pontius is saying, probably what he would more consider more overtly woke, right?
slight struggle.
You're just repeating his point.
No,
It's the
no,
bad
no,
writing.
No, it is the bad
But it's
writing
not just
motivated.
bad
No,
writing.
I don't
the
think it
bad
is just
writing
bad
the
writing, actually, now that I
motivation
think
behind it,
about it.
because the
I think
motivation
there is
not
something
bad.
else to it.
The motivation is the change.
I changed my mind.
If I may, what I hear you saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and this is what I heard you say and what I heard Gibbs say both, is it's when they make these changes for the intent to piss off conservatives in their
Yeah, I don't
audience,
think that
so
ever
it's
happens. So
conservative.
wokeism
Is
doesn't
that
exist. We defeated it,
I would
guys.
say,
Well,
yeah,
no,
but
no,
it's
no,
also
no,
just
no,
for the
no,
sake of doing it, right?
No,
When
what
there's
was-
like not a need to do it, and you go
Yeah,
out
that's
of
what
What
I'm
is a
saying. They're doing
need?
it just for the express intent.
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
maybe
they
not
are
as a
doing-
chud.
they
That
are,
would be the
they are
only
doing the
exception,
change and are writing it very badly, only to appease a very loud minority that would insult them otherwise. We have seen this with Helldivers, where there was a trans person.
okay,
I
so
don't know
you're
the
saying
whole
it's
story.
to appease a group, whereas Gibbs is saying it to attack a group.
It's both. Yes, attack and
It is both. They attack the people that the group hates, and the woke hates conservative. I'm not even conservative. I'm very libertarian, and I am LGBT. I am actually bisexual, but I don't give a single flying fuck
Based.
about the feelings of anyone. In fact, one of my
Hope
favorite
he doesn't
movies,
fall
and I'm
for
sure
me.
Majin knows it, is Training Day, starring Denzel Washington.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
the-
Majid
the-
knows
the
this,
main-
for sure.
The,
But go on.
the main character of the movie is a villain that
He
is
wouldn't
black.
be wrong.
Yeah. If the movie was made today, you would have an army of progressive on Twitter going, "Why the fuck did you make the bad guy of the movie a black corrupt cop? Are you saying that all black guys are corrupt? Are they all criminals?
cooking.
Are they all bad people?" No, I'm just saying that this person is a bad person. And then after all of that, you release a version where the main bad guy is white. Then there is the opposite problem. You are not doing it because you want to tell a good story. You are doing it because you want to appease the people insulting you on Twitter.
Noted.
That
No,
periodically-
my woke
Okay,
ass is
okay,
about to
okay.
make an
I
issue
gotta,
out of this.
I gotta interject because we do need counterpoints to go. He's gonna have a fit. Go ahead, counterpoints. Bull.
Gonna lose his fucking
I'm
mind.
doing okay because I'm actually murdering bugs by the thousands right now as we speak. So so I think that one of the things that we need to bring up that I wanted to make sure is clear, not necessarily in this conversation, but with anybody that I talk to online, is like we do need to scale our level of outrage. And also, I think that like conservatives and men and libertarians and grown folk, we do need to scale our outrage. And what I mean by that is that what we're talking about is since 1987, a company created a fantastic science fiction universe, right? That's what happened.
God, this game is so
And,
Bethesda.
Basically, what's happened since then
Just random
is
Bethesda
it's gotten a
moments.
little bit more progressive to the
Great.
point that we're uncomfortable. That's what's happened, right? Nobody's dead. Nobody is going
I
to
appreciate
die.
Connor
Some
for
people might
saying
make
this.
a little bit less money, and we might all be a little bit more annoyed. But also, I think that we should be creative in our own rights. I was telling female Space Marine fans, last week to to create their own
Yeah.
3D printed
I'm
model
working on
And
my
guess what's gonna
own
happen if they
OCs, my
push me
own
out of the
fan
hobby?
fiction.
I'm gonna go create
Yeah.
my own fucking science fiction universe where you can be as sexist as you want and as racist as you want. That's the fucking plan.
The counterpoints.
So
the counterpoints. This just seems to be another way of telling men that they can't have feelings, right? Or they shouldn't express
you're
passionate
right.
feelings.
We are not allowed to have nice things. Women and feminine men ruin everything they fucking touch.
Folk.
And Warhammer 40K and Space Marines will be one more thing added to the chopping block of men's self-sacrifice to appease feminine people that in nature they could absolutely fucking annihilate. You're right. We are not allowed to have nice things.
Okay, gang. This has been
all right. This was a thing. Yeah. Okay.
It depends.
As long as we make
All right, I'm calling it here. On that excellent note from Counterpoints.
That is the problem.
Gang,
if it becomes noble, bright, and progressive and annoying,
Everybody
then,
needs to shut up so that Whick can moderate. All right. We're going to call it there. So, oh, geez. As you can see, you see what I mean where I say it was not a productive panel whatsoever. I don't feel like anybody... there was no ideological consent. There was no consensus of any kind reached. So tomorrow morning, early, 5 a.m. CST, probably roughly, we'll be having our conversation with Pontius Glaw. Probably going to talk about the panel, probably going to talk about wokeism in 40K. I want to specifically ask him the squats question. And there was another question that I came up with that I specifically want to ask him about. Like, I want to challenge him on the burn it down thing, because I definitely think that what Counterpoints is proposing, where it's like, just go off and make your own thing, is way more constructive. I'm already working on my own Warhammer fanfiction that it contains characters of my own creation. One of the characters, it's set in the future. Abaddon has been executed by a Custodes who is not a woman, but is a heretic Custodes who has been convinced by Tzeentch that the only way to save the Emperor is to kill the Emperor. So this Custodes has killed Abaddon, taken control of the Black Legion, and is now waging a war against the Imperium, or at least waging enough of conflict against them to get into the the palace on Holy Terra, get to the Emperor's body in the Golden Throne, and kill him. Like there's so much available with the Warhammer universe to do on your own without any input from GW, right? So that's something that I do want to challenge him on, because I don't like this. I think it's incredibly negative, toxic, and destructive to just say, well, if they change it into something I don't like, I will destroy it. Just fucking move on and do your own thing. There needs to be a certain point, and I've said this so many times to the chuds, I would say it to the wokelets if they would stop blocking me. There needs to be a point where one of these groups is just going to stand, and groups informally, I'll acknowledge, there needs to be a point where one of the sides just goes, you know what, we're done. We're just going to go off and we're going to play our game, and like the other side can in their hate cage, but we're not interested. We're just going to keep doing our own thing. So, all right, that being said, come back tomorrow for that convo with Pontius Glaw. I will probably attach that to this video or release them as separate videos. I haven't decided yet. But in the meantime, this has been the Big JC. May I bless you and keep you, and don't let the female custodians bite.